بسم الله. طيب بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we praise Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us on this day and that He blesses what we have remaining from the days of Sha'ban and He delivers us beautifully to the month of Ramadan. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. May Allah deliver us to Ramadan in the best of states, the best of health, the best of ease, the best of comfort, the best of afiyah, the best of spirits, the best of hearts, the best of minds, the best of bodies, so that we are present in Ramadan with the fullness of ourselves, inwardly and outwardly. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this majlis for us to be a majlis, a gathering of light, a gathering of healing, a gathering of increase, a gathering of beautification, and a gathering of remembrance. May Allah be pleased with this gathering. And may He, as we remember Him in this gathering, may He remember us in a gathering far greater than this one. And may He have the angels with us, enveloping us, and mercy and tranquility descending upon us. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, we have an ambitious attempt to try to complete a chapter from the Ihya Ulumuddin, the Ihya Ulumuddin being this magnum opus of the great Imam al-Ghazali, who's known as Hujjatul Islam, the proof of Islam. And in his Ihya, he, mashallah, in this, most prints are maybe 4 volumes, 5 volumes, 6 volumes. But what he has attempted to do is try to coalesce and bring together all of the dimensions of our religion. You know, often when we worship, we tend to err on one side over the other. Perhaps we're concerned with the outward state of our worship, maybe the integrity of my fast, fiqhiyan, legally, or the integrity of my prayer, legally, but maybe I lose sight of the spiritual dimensions and the wajibat al-qalbiyya, the obligations of the heart. And so that these fasts, they're just not meant for a type of physical restriction, but there's a spiritual dimension. And there's a theological dimension that has to be considered. So what Imam al-Ghazali does in the Ihya is he takes these principal acts of worship and he distills them for us on all dimensions. So I'm going to be reading, inshallah, not in totality, but portions of the Kitab of Asrar al-Sawm wal-Muhimmat, the book of the secrets of fasting. And we'll touch upon the spiritual and, inshallah, the legal dimension. So if you have any basic fiqhi questions that arise as we're speaking about matters of fasting in Ramadan, then please bring them forward. Let's not try to get distracted by fiqhi matters that are outside of Ramadan or not in the scope of fasting, inshallah. So he begins, let's begin inshallah with the beginning of this particular chapter where he says, يقول المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا الله بعلومه في الدارين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أعظم على عباده المنة. Begins by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who has granted His servants this magnificent grace, this magnificent blessing. لما دفع عنهم كيد الشيطان وفنه. When He warded off, so the praise is to Allah for His magnificence that He has bestowed upon us, when He warded off from us the trickery of Satan and the powers that Satan seemingly is able to wield over us. So this is an interesting introduction. We're praising Allah. Now, of course, our interaction with Satan is that Satan tends to dissuade us and entice us and so on. But he begins by praising Allah for this magnificent blessing when He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wards off from us Satan and the trickery of Satan. وَرَدَّ أَمَلَهُ وَخَيَّبَ ظَنَّهُ. And He pushed away the hopes of Satan and He made his assumptions wretched, i.e. the assumptions and the hopes of Satan. إِذْ. How did Allah do this? إِذْ جَعَلَ الصَّوْمَ حِصْنًا لِأَوْلِيَائِهِ وَجُنَّةِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the fast a hisn, a fortress for the awliya of Allah, for the friends of Allah, for the servants of Allah, wa junnah, and a protection. So this is a beautiful framing of Imam al-Ghazali for us to even begin to imagine what the nature of the fast really is. Because we all have subjectively conceptions of the fast. But here in the beginning of his speech, he's telling us, praise Allah for this magnificent reality that He's bestowed upon us, where He has, restricted and blocked off and warded off and deemed the impetus or the impulse of Satan null and void through this miraculous and sacred act of the fast, because it is your fortress and it is your protection. So whenever you think of a need to be protected, you rush into your home, you rush into your car, you find a secure, safe space so that you can be protected from the elements, from weather, from a threat of someone who may want to harm you. You seek a fortress. Well, here for us, the believer, a sawm is a fortress. One of the most principal spaces that the believer can find his or her fortress and protection is in the act of fasting. And protection from what? Protection from true evil, the evil of Satan and the evil of the lower self. Right? There is this constant impulse from within, the lower self, the desires of the lower self, an-nafsul ammara, plus the whispers and the wantonness of the cursed Satan who wants to see us fail. Well, the principal space of protection from that is in the fast. وَفَتَحَ لَهُمْ بِهِ أَبْوَابَ الْجَنَّةِ. So it is a door for protection, i.e. Junnah, and then it is a door that opens up, Allah opens up through the fast, the doorways to heaven. Right, so the pathway to heaven is facilitated through the fast. وَعَرَّفَهُمْ أَنَّ وَسِيلَةَ الشَّيْطَانِ إِلَى قُلُوبِهِمُ الشَّهَوَاتُ الْمُسْتَكِنَّةِ. And by this, Allah tells us what the true pathway of Satan is. How does Satan actually find himself wielding the power that he does over the human being? This is from the things that we should thank Allah that I know where the threats come from. Sometimes you find yourself sick and you don't know where it's coming from. And then you realize, you know what, you tested your water, oh my God, it's this drinking water I've been drinking, it's been making me sick. Or I didn't know I kept on getting these infections, now I realize it's this particular, place that I go to. When I go there's a certain virus, now I know not to go there. This is a blessing. When you know what's causing the ailment in you, you find praise to Allah. Alhamdulillah, now I know where the sickness comes from. Well, here, Imam al-Ghazali is highlighting the fact that we should thank Allah that He has enabled us with the knowledge that we know how shaitan can gain easy entry into my life. Because, sometimes we feel like shaitan just feels so strong. His whispers, his inspirations to us, what he, is constantly instigating in our lives. Well, maybe we have opened the door wide open. Maybe he was initially a little bit intimidated by us, but then when he saw the doors wide open, he's like, oh, okay, good, I'll come in. No locks, no doorknobs even, and there's barely hinges on the door. So it's just wide open. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, ضَيِّقُوا, restrict the pathway of Satan. You know how you restrict the pathway of Satan in yourself? Through the belly, the stomach. The stomach is one of the principal pathways that Satan finds himself able to gain entry. Subhanallah. So عرفهم أن وسيلة الشيطان إلى قلوبهم, the pathway of Satan to our hearts. He says, الشهوات المستكنة are these desirous, realities that are settled within us. So now we have to break. That's why Imam al-Ghazali, he has a chapter called كسر الشهوتين, the breaking of the two desires. The shattering of the two desires, the desires of the stomach and the desires of the farj, the private part. And so now we say, okay, now I know why shaitan can enter into my life the way he does. Now I know why he, can sow seeds of discord in my home between me and my spouse and my children. Because desirousness and it's just wide open. Anything, indulgences are fulfilled all the time. So shaitan is present. Has no need to leave. He's comfortable. Sayyidina Umar, when shaitan would see Sayyidina Umar walking down a pathway, shaitan would be terrified to walk down that same pathway. He would go and find an alternate route. There's no way he's going to interface with Sayyidina Umar. So you and I have to understand that we can put ourselves and place ourselves within a sacred fortress where the shaitan becomes terrified of us. Knows there's no way I can penetrate this fortress. That's a capacity that Allah has bestowed upon the human being. So you're not destined to just be, if you perceive yourself as like maybe wretched or, oh my God, I'm such a heathen, I can't control myself, I do all this all the time, I just can't stop. You know, sometimes we have this talk track. That's just me not knowing how to protect myself. So the fast is a blessing from Allah. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. May Allah deliver us beautifully to Ramadan, to enter into the protection. And that's why, you know, one of the true beauties of Ramadan is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shackles the shaitan. Just to tell you, it's a reality that's transpiring proverbially above. So you understand that, hey, listen, when you're fast, this is actually happening. So Allah's informing you of that. You know, that. So the nature of Ramadan is full protection. But the nature of the regular fast, in and outside of Ramadan, is that type of protection that you can have with you all the time. وَالصَّلَاةُ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ قَائِدِ الْخَلْقِ وَمُوَحِّدِ السُّنَّةِ. And we send salawat upon Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who is the leader of the creation, قَائِدُ الْخَلْقِ وَمُمَهِّدِ السُّنَّةِ, and the one who laid down the foundations of the path, the sunnah to Allah جل في علاه, وعلى آله وأصحابه ذوي الآراء الثاقبة والعقول المرجحة وسلم تسليما كثيرا. And we send salawat upon the family of Sayyidina Muhammad and the companions of Sayyidina Muhammad and the righteous predecessors and scholars. وسلم تسليما كثيرا. He says, أما بعد فإن الصوم ربع الإيمان بمقتضى قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصوم نصف الصبر. He says fasting is a quarter of faith. 1/4 of your faith is fasting. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ says, "As-sawmu nisfu sabr." Fasting is what? Half of patience. وَبِمُقْتَضَى قَوْلِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم الصَّبْرُ نِصْفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And patience is half of faith. So simple mathematics, what does that result in? 1/4. So if fasting is half of patience and patience is half of faith, then the equation results in Sawm, fasting, is 1/4 of faith. So 1/4 of our iman is this act of the fast. This is no insignificant reality. You know, sometimes we have this weird, physical, tenuous relationship with fasting. It's just an inconvenience and, oh my God, I have to. But when you just take a pause and you realize, hold on, I am realizing 1/4 of my faith. You know, how come, you know, and everyone likes to commonly say, well, isn't marriage half of iman? This is like something that's colloquially said on the tongues, whether it's correct or not. But everyone, we'll have talks, half your deen, you know, and websites, half your deen. And everyone's like, Shaykh, shouldn't I realize half my deen? Well, how come we're not as excited to realize 1/4 of our iman? You know, shouldn't take the same type of, joyous, inspired pursuit? Because it's 1/4 of my iman, and I want to realize my iman. And the nature of the reason you see this connection between patience, sabr, and iman, and fasting is because truly one of the greatest representation in manifest form of patience is fasting. Because you feel it. You feel the resilience of yourself, of your being. While you're fasting, you're pushing through, you're fighting the impulses to eat and drink. And so that is a clear manifestation of patience. Like sometimes people will be afflicted with some form of affliction, the loss of a loved one. May Allah protect all of our loved ones. The loss of health, may Allah grant us afiyah and wellness, ya Rabbil Alameen. But we're just begrudgingly dealing with it, and we don't really have the presence of minds of patience, and we're just kind of going through it. But when you're fasting, you're not begrudgingly fasting. There is a sabran jameel. There is a beautiful patience, a resilient patience. Isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wa taqullah. You feel, and then you inspire your children who may be fasting. Hey, be strong. There's 2 hours left. Inshallah, you can do it. And so when you realize that about yourself, you see the evident virtue of patience and how our whole faith tradition is a journey of patience. It really is. You have to be patient with worship. You have to be patient to stay away from sin, and you have to be patient with Allah's decrees in terms of ibtila'at and mihan, hardships and difficulties. So we see why patience is a principal virtue of our sacred tradition, and why the fast is a powerful representation of that. ثم هو متميز بخاصية النسبة إلى الله تعالى. He then says that one of the things that makes fasting so unique is the attribution of Allah, by Allah, of the fasting to Himself, where He says, جل في علا, Allah subhanahu in the hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says, كل حسنة بعشر أمثالها إلى 700 ضعف. That every act of virtue, every hasana, is multiplied by 10 until the multiplication is by 700. So 10x or 700x, that's for the acts of hasanat, the virtuous deeds we do. إلا الصوم or إلا الصيام, except for fasting, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes it to Himself. فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Fasting is mine, and I reward accordingly. This is a very inspiring reality for us, to know that when I fast, Allah is saying, this is such a sacred act of worship. It's mine. It's mine. فَهُوَ لِي. And I will reward them accordingly. You don't have to worry about the volume of the reward. It's endless. You know, it's like you tell someone you love, and they're really excited. It's like you tell them, Habibi, don't worry. I promise you're going to be more than happy. You're going to get everything you could have dreamt of and more. That's what Allah's saying to us. For doing what? For fasting. You know, so you want to just absorb each one of these dimensions that Imam al-Ghazali is highlighting, so that you color your perspective on fasting differently. Because I know for us, a lot of the anxiety that's happening right now is just like the discomfort, the change of routine, the habits that are going to have to shift, the coffee consumption, the sleep schedule. And that, the shaitan is like he's working extra hours right now to make us despair and lose hope and not see the potential. You have to ward off shaitan, right, aggressively, so that you can see the profound beauty that's at play here. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves this act of siyam so much that He says, listen, this is an act of worship that I reward for without any limitations. Say, Alhamdulillah wa shukrulillah. You know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boasts about the people who fast to the angels. You know, by saying, Unzuru ila ibadi, look at my servants. So Allah, because you know, it's almost subhanAllah, when the angels initially, they kind of asked inquisitively, let's just put it in the nicest possible way, say, Ya Rabbi, are you going to create these human beings who are going to sow corruption and spill blood and cause all this evil? Yufsidu fiha wa yusfiku dima, and so on. Allah said, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you do not know. So then Allah, you know, fast forward, us human beings were fasting, and He says, look at my servants. Look at them. إنهم تركوا, they left their ta'am, their food, and their sharab, and their drink, and their shahawat, and their desires min ajli, for my sake. فَصَوْمُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. That's why fasting is for me, and I reward for it. So Allah boasts about the person who's fasting to the angels. So when you imagine, inshallah, Allahumma balighna Ramadan, the first day of Ramadan, you start to fast, you imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boasting about you. Thinking, look, and you think me, like me, insignificant Yasir, you know, Allah is talking about me, yes, you and I. لَخُلُوفُ فَمِ الصَّائِمِ أَطْيَبُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ رِيحِ الْمِسْكِ. That the bad breath of the Sa'im, the one who's fasting, that you and I cannot tolerate. We cannot tolerate each other's bad breath. We'll tolerate our own stink, but no one else's. That's just how it is. Even our kids, maybe when they're a little younger, it's like, oh, okay, that's cute, Habibi. And then when they just get a little bit more mature, it's like, okay, get out of my face. Go brush your teeth and come back to Allah. I can't deal with you right now. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to the one who's fasting, and you should notice it's fasting. He doesn't say outside of the fast. Outside of the fast, keep yourself fresh and clean and miswak and toothpaste, have good breath. But in the fast, because it is such, that bad breath, what does it represent? The khuluf. What does it represent? It represents your servanthood. It represents your dedication. It represents your sacrifice. It represents your commitment to Allah. So just pause and think. And maybe sometimes you become self-aware of your bad breath. You say, you just have a moment between you and Allah. Ya Rabbi, I'm so blessed to have you. None of these humans tolerate me, but you love me. You love my bad breath. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan ya Rabbi. طيب. So then he says, وقد قال الله تعالى إنما يوفى الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب. Subhanallah. See, we spoke about how now what's synonymous, between the synonymous nature between siyam and patience, correct? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and now we said siyam is rewarded by Allah limitlessly. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إنما يوفى الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب. That the rewards for the patient people on this earth, they will be given handsomely, the reward, without any hisab, without any reckoning. That's for your patience and the resiliency of your patience. And this extends beyond just the fast. So when you are patient with prayer, you're patient with the hardships that Allah has befallen you. Someone took money from you. Someone left you in marriage aggressively and harmfully. Someone tried to take you to court and deprive you of whatever you're owed or you deserve, or whatever the case is. Hardships of the dunya. The ajr, the reward that you get for your patience is profound and without any hisab, no reckoning. You don't have to be held accountable. That's why we are constantly enticed to be what? وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings to those who are patient. If you're patient, if you and I can unlock the secret of patience in our lives, we've unlocked endless realities, this life and the next. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. To you, we belong, and to you we shall return. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem. وناهيك في معرفة فضله قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والذي نفسي بيده لخلوف فم الصائم أطيب عند الله من ريح المسك يقول الله عز وجل إنما يذر شهوته وطعامه وشرابه من أجلي فالصوم لي وأنا أجزي به. I already explained these two. I just wanted, for the barakah of reading, I read them from the book. One is about the scent of the mouth of the one who's fasting, and the one who leaves, how Allah boasts about us to the angels. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم للجنة باب يقال له الريان لا يدخله إلا الصائمون. There's a door, there's a gate of Jannah that is called Ar-Rayyan, and the only people who go into the gate of Jannah are the people who fast. May Allah make us from them. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr famously said, Ya Rasulullah, when he heard this, he says, Ya Rasulullah, am I going to be from those who enter into this door? He said, Ya Abu Bakr, you will enter from all of the doors of Jannah. You have all of the options, right? To enter from any of the doors or all of them. Because he was keen, he wanted to know, how can I get into Jannah? What are the doors of Jannah? Which gates? SubhanAllah, if you're trying to buy a piece of real estate today, right? Or you're going to book a room for a resort. What do you want to know immediately? Where's my room? Where's my house? Where is it in accordance with the view? Does it have beach access, beach whatever, beach front? We're we're completely enraptured by that idea. Well, certainly I want to know, okay, what are the gates of Jannah and how do I get into them? And what are they called? And where are the access points? I want to go and say, no, that's their keenness. And the problem is for us, the reason why we're not keen about Jannah is because we are trying to make our dunya the Jannah. That's why we're always obsessed with what we have here. How beautiful is my home here? How nice are my cars here? How big are my assets here? And we rarely ask about Jannah. Because we're trying to make this our Jannah, but this will never be our Jannah. The Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim, their concern was what? Tell me about the akhirah. That's why Sayyidina Abu Bakr had no problem giving all of his wealth in the dunya, multiple times over. And we know this. That's why, I always joke and I say this. When you go to a Muslim event, fundraiser, banquet, whatever, and the Shaykh says, or the Shaykh or the fundraiser or whoever says, who's going to be the first Abu Bakr? I say, flag. Flag on the play. We don't have Abu Bakrs in this community. No. First Abu Bakr means who's going to spend all of their wealth. So let's not, you get what I'm saying here? It's nice. May Allah bless and accept our donations. I'm not dismissing them. It's لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. We don't dismiss any act of virtue. Alhamdulillah, $1 is a blessing, $10,000 a blessing, $100,000 a blessing. But if I'm going to say who's going to be the first Abu Bakr, it's going to be the one who's going to say, I'm going to give all of my wealth. That's why I tell young people who don't really have anything, how much money you have in the bank? $35. Go be an Abu Bakr. You can do that. The real test is for the guy who has a 401k and has, cash in the bank and whatever. That's like, $10,000 work? Yeah, but $35, you can become an Abu Bakr. You got what I'm saying here? So young people who don't have money, who are not muftuneen, and go become the Abu Bakrs of our ummah. And those of you who have, aspire. Inshallah. May Allah make us from them, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah. وهو موعود بلقاء الله تعالى في جزاء صومه قال صلى الله عليه وسلم للصائم فرحتان. Imam al-Ghazali saying that the one who fasts is promised a wa'd. There's a promise of a particular meeting. There's a promise of a particular meeting that happens for the one who fasts. للصائم فرحتان. The farha, the joy, when they break their fast, farhatun inda fitrihi, i.e. the breaking of the fast, Eid al-Fitr, or the daily breaking of the fast. Wa farhatun inda liqa'i rabbihi, this maw'id, this meeting. The farha, the joy when you meet, liqa', you meet your Rabb. Allahumma rzuqna dhaka al-liqa' ya Rabb. May Allah gift us that liqa', that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we meet Allah and we are so happy to meet Allah. So many find themselves naturally intimidated about the prospect of meeting Allah, right? We're fearful of that. How I'm not ready, I can't meet, whatever, all this. But then there are those who aspire and yearn to meet Allah. That's why Sayyidina Muhammad was given the choice. Do you want to stay here in the dunya? Or do you want to go to Allah? He says, بَلِ الرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى. I want the highest, most companion. Al-Rafiq is the companion who is in the heights. Al-A'la. And Sayyidina Bilal, the same thing. His wife was crying because when she would say, Ya wayla, Ya wayla, when Sayyidina Bilal was dying, woe to me, woe to me. And then he said, no, quli wa farhata. He said, no, say, oh happiness. Say, oh joy. غَدًا نَلْقَى الْأَحِبَّةِ. Tomorrow we're going to be with the beloveds. Muhammadan wa sahbah. Muhammad and his companions. Like, we're good. I love you, but I will love them more. I want to be with them. Subhanallah. And we all know it. Anyone here who doesn't love Sayyidina Muhammad more than their spouse or their children hasn't yet gotten there. You understand what I mean by that? Because to love Sayyidina Muhammad more than you love yourself and your children is iman. So this is not like, people get all sensitive about, no, but hold on, you love someone more than me? Absolutely. I love Allah, I love Sayyidina Muhammad more than, inshallah. Actually, that's a hope. I don't know. I can't even know if I can fully make that claim because I don't know if I'm at that level. But we should aspire to that. Allahumma rzuqna ya Rabb. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لكل شيء باب وباب العبادة الصوم. He said everything has a bab, a door that opens up, and the doorway of ibadah, of worship, is fasting. Why is that the case? Why do you think the door that opens up worship is fasting? Because if you think of it, the nature of who we are when we're fasting is our relationship with other acts of ibadah become more heightened. So the Quran kind of opens up to me a little bit more. Salah opens up a little, because now I'm fasting. I'm in this mental, spiritual, emotional state where I am restricting myself from the pathway of Satan. Myself is subdued, it's controlled. And so what happens is the light of worship starts to open up in my life. I'm shy to sin. I'm just far more reserved about sinning. I'm not as cavalier. When I'm fasting, I'm not as cavalier. I'm far more thoughtful. I'm more aware of Allah. So you see, it's a door. When you fast, you open up a door into the world of worship. And when you enter into the world of worship, you have entered into the realm of the sacred. And imagine if you and I are inspired to live in a world where our daily reality orbits worship, ibadah. I'm excited to wake up for Salatul Fajr. I'm excited to do my morning wird of adhkar. And I'm just waiting. فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. When I complete one act of virtue, I'm just waiting to get up to the next. That's the reality that we want to live in. Allahumma arzuqna dhalik ya Rabb. Prophet ﷺ says, نَوْمُ الصَّائِمِ عِبَادَةً. The sleeping of the one who fasts is an act of worship. And the reason being is because the fast itself is a tark. Tark is you leave something. To fast, you have to stop. You have to stop fasting. So if you, while you're fasting, you find the exhaustion of the fast and you go to sleep, because of the exhaustion of fasting, I'll go to sleep, I don't mean sleep 8 hours until iftar and you miss dhuhr and asr and say like, but the Shaykh said, sawmul nawm al-ibadah, so whatever. Sleeping of the person who's fasting is ibadah. No. This means that like sleep overtakes you, really just need to like close your eyes and get some rest. That becomes an act of ibadah. 20, 30 minute rest, hour if really needed. Not this whole like, oh, fasting is super easy because I just take off and I sleep all day and I wake up and I have all night and I'm grazing all night in the field of my kitchen. And then I go to sleep. Allah help us. And that Sayyidina Abu Hurairah says رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا دخل شهر رمضان فتحت أبواب الجنة وغلقت أبواب النار وصفدت الشياطين. And when Ramadan enters upon us, the doors of Jannah are wide open and the doors of Jahannam are shut closed. وَصُفِّدَتِ الشَّيَاطِينَ. And the shayateen are shackled. So some people ask, what is the impulse to do evil in Ramadan if the shayateen are shackled? Well, the ulama treat this in different ways. Some ulama say the shackling of the shayateen doesn't exactly mean that they don't have influence. It just means that the level of their influence is far more limited because they're shackled. So they may not be able to come to you the way they used to, but they can maybe shout to you. It's like, hey, you know what I mean? So it's still there, but it's lessened. Some of the ulama say no. The shayateen are fully shackled and there's no impact. It's just now your lower self that has been inspired by the shaitan and has been left to be indulged is more robust. So it's really, Ramadan is a time where you can really see the integrity of yourself because you don't have the external factors, i.e. the shaitan, as present, but rather now it's just yourself. And you get a sense of how big my lower self has become in my life. Like how much have I surrendered my being, i.e. the honor of myself, my mind and my heart and my soul, to my lower self. May Allah give us protection from the evil of the lower self and the evil of shaitan. وَنَادَ مُنَادٍ. And at the doorway of Ramadan, a caller calls, the angel. يَا بَاغِيَ الْخَيْرِ أَقْبِلْ وَيَا بَاغِيَ الشَّرِّ أَقْصِرْ. O you who desires good, come forward. And O you who desires evil or wrong, stop. And so the reality is that there is something very synonymous with the nature of Ramadan, is that Allah puts a special caller at the doorway of Ramadan to say, hey, listen, if you want goodness, if that's what you really seek, then come forward. Halumma, come forward quickly. But if you're still on that path of like, I kind of want some goodness, but I really want all the wrong, then stop. And by stop here, it's stop in your tracks, get rid of that garbage, get rid of that baggage, and then come forward. So the point here is don't just stumble into Ramadan like, a wreck, someone who doesn't know how to pack bags and just shows up in the airport and things are flying all over the place and tickets are here and passports are over there and they rush. These people that give me ajra every time I see them in the airport. I'm like, Allahumma hadi ya Rabbil Alameen. Especially when the families are together and no one knows where anything is and the child is like 17 feet behind. That chaos. That's how a lot of us show up to Ramadan, right? We don't know if we're going to make the flight. We don't know if we're going to get there on time. We don't know if we have everything we need, and we're just anxious. And we're just maybe, sometimes you get on the flight, you're like, I don't know, something feels missing. Everything is gone. I don't know. But when you actually stop, as the angel commands you to do, and you realize, hold on, what am I actually, Ramadan is a few days away, correct? If we're not getting our minds into the Ramadan reality, then we're falling short. Like, if you haven't today, as of today, gotten into the Ramadan reality, then you make this majlis the starting point. Khalas, nawaitu ya Rabbi, from this moment, I'm entering into the world of Ramadan. I'm fully aware of its blessings. I know that Jannah is wide open for me. On top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about how Jannah tuzayyinu nafsuha. Jannah beautifies itself in the month of Ramadan, awaiting Ramadan, and the shayateen are shackled, and heaven, nar is closed, hellfire is shut down, and the blessings are endless, and the mercy is endless, and the forgiveness is endless. Ya Rabbi, I'm coming to you, and I'm excited to come to you, and I'm prepared. I'm ready and inspired to fast, and I'm ready and inspired to read the Quran, and I'm ready and inspired to pray my fara'id, my obligations, and the taraweeh, and the sunnah. All of it, Ya Rabbi, I'm inspired, I'm excited. But Ya Rabbi, I know I can get a little weak, so please support me and help me and aid me. Right? أعني على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. Help me, Ya Rabbi. Right? I don't want work to overtake me. I want to be able to do my work with itqan, the way that you expect me to do so, but then to be inspired to, in the times that I have, to pick up the Quran and read it, to keep my sibha with me and make istighfar and salawat and salam. I want to live in the orbit of ibadah, which is this beautiful garden of Ramadan. Get your mind there. And that's what it means to stop. Stop worrying and having anxiety about your comfort. Stop that. It's not healthy. It's not going to help you. Worrying about how comfortable am I going to be? You know, am I going to be able to do this? If you fasted already, the answer is clearly yes. So just set that anxiety aside. The anxiety is not helping me. The worry is not helping me. The stress of the potential of not being able to deal with work or the children or the routine of the home or whatever is not going to help you. You go to Allah walking, what does Allah do? He comes to you running. You come to Him 1 inch, Allah comes to you a foot. You come to Him a foot, He comes to you a mile. And then the more you come closer to Him with the things that He loves, then He becomes the hands with which you move, and the eyes with which you see, and the tongue with which you speak. Allah manifests in a way that your reality becomes one that is Rabbani. So you're like, oh my God, subhanAllah, I had such a Mubarak Ramadan. And the reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped me with this and that, and I was able to figure out my kids and my routine and this, and the thing that I thought was impossible became beautiful, and I actually found that I had some extra time. That's barakah. That's barakah. That's the reality of blessings that we want. And so, yeah, if you and I are going to say right now, I'm going to do this on my own, no, I'm going to fall short and I'm going to become miserable. I'm going to have anxiety. But if I say, Ya Rabbi, by your aid, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, by the aid of Allah, because of Allah, I enter into the reality of Ramadan. If you go, mustahib al-basmala, you have with you as your companion the basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, then you penetrate any reality. Allahumma razuqna dhalik ya Rabb. وقال وقيع في قوله تعالى كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية هي أيام الصيام إذا تركوا فيها الأكل والشرب. And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He gives this command to كلوا واشربوا, eat and drink هنيئا, in happiness, بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية, by what you have left behind in those previous days, i.e. the days of Siyam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, as a reward and as a gift, tells you to eat and drink. Now, I want to stop here for a second, just highlight something about our behavioral traits in Ramadan. Allah loves that we break our fast. Not only does He love us to break our fast, He expects us and commands us to break our fast. We're not allowed to delay the fast even for a second. It's not مَا عَجَّلُوا الْفِطْرِ. As the Prophet ﷺ says, لَا تَزَالُ أُمَّتِي عَلَى خَيْرٍ مَا عَجَّلُوا الْفِطْرِ. As long as my ummah breaks their fast on time, then my ummah is in a good state. So from the sunan and the mandubat is that you break your fast immediately. You don't delay it. But there's a huge difference between that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, eat and drink by the previous act of worship and devotion, and the disposition that we have, which is like we're just looking at the clock like, hyenas who are looking at the prey, like countdown. And my nose is like smelling the food, and my nafs is just raging. Right? And it's like this violent attack of the food. And then there's this like massive tension. Should we pray first or eat first? It's like that's the real MMA battle. That is like the ticket, like the main ticket, main fight. Should we eat first? Should we pray first? And it's like the people who want to eat first, if you say pray first, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to lose my Ramadan and my deen. We're going to eat first. And it's violent and it's angry. And there's like this resentment of like, okay, false piety, Mr. Pray first. Okay, I don't want to deal with that right now. I need to eat. And I'm speaking of a reality that we are all very familiar with. Make this Ramadan, make last Ramadan the last time you will ever do that again. Because it's so ugly. And it's not ugly horizontally per se. Like we'll tolerate each other, like fine, okay, you want to pray? Guess what? You want to eat first, I'm going to pray and come back. And that's what happens. It's usually the mom or the auntie or the uncle, because they'll go pray, and the kids are like just, fiending. And, sometimes we have these uzumas, and the people are like, okay, they'll eat and they'll break their fast and they didn't even pray Maghrib yet, and Isha is like on the doorstep, and let alone catch Isha in the masjid now, which is going to be barely making Maghrib. When I do that, I'm saying to Allah, I didn't really learn much from this fast. I didn't understand the point of this fast. I technically did it, so I technically got rewarded, but I didn't learn the lesson. You have to just pause and ask yourself, and just have some self-reflection. You really don't have an extra second of you to be controlled? Because what happened? You were in this intense, aggressive countdown. And every second, you look at the clock, what time is it? Oh my God, okay. All right, let me just go try to do something else. And usually it's not a good thing. It's not like I'm going to go read Quran. It's like, let me go watch a show that's going to get me. But I won't watch something haram, just something mindless, so I can just kill the time. Listen, you're technically fulfilling the fast in the legal fiqhi sense. But spiritually, maybe you're not realizing it yet. Because you're not embracing the patience that you possess and the self-control that you actually have. And that which Allah wants to, inspire within us. So you enter into the Maghrib, bisalam. You don't run to prayer. If the jama'ah is happening, you're not supposed to run. You understand that, right? From the adab is when the imam is praying in jama'ah, sometimes you're coming from over there and you start running and you pant. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to walk, and if you miss, because you're supposed to enter into salah in peace. So when you're entering into the window of iftar, enter in peace. Allah, make the adhan. It's okay. No, you're not going to die. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And you just feel Maghrib descending upon you. And the window of now this next phase of the day of the fast, which is now the night, which is a sacred window. The day is sacred in the fast. The night is sacred in devotional worship. So now I feel the night descending upon me. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Repeat the mu'adhin. Make the dua. Make the dua of breaking the fast, which is mustajab. Take a bite of your date. Drink some water. Get up and pray Maghrib calmly. And then come sit down, eat. And you'll be more than fine. We all know we have that capacity, correct? So I think, inshallah, make a promise to yourself, and all of us, we make our promise to ourselves, that type of behavior was a fixture of the past. No more Ramadans like that. I'm not an animal. I'm not a heathen. I can control myself. I can be calm. And we need to create a community. The Arabs, outside of Siyam, one of the poets that says, they would say, this is Lamiyatul Arab. This poem, he wrote this Lamiya. Lamiya is when every stanza ends with lam. And he says, وَإِن مُدَّتِ الْأَيَادِ إِلَى الزَّادِ فَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِأَعْجَلِهِمْ إِذْ أَجْشَعُ النَّاسِ أَعْجَلُهُم. Right? أَعْجَلُ. He says, if the hands go out to the zad to get more food, I won't be the first one to do so. Because that's not min shiyam rijal. That's not from the qualities of men. To like, everyone's like, oh. The rajul, the rijal, they have a certain dignity and honor. I don't rush. لم أكن بأعجلهم إذ أجشع الناس أعجلوا. The most al-jasha is like the most wretched or the ugliest of men is the one who is the first to put his hand out. So I'm a believer, I'm a servant of Allah, I have this integrity, I won't be the first to put my hand out. No. وقيل في قوله تعالى فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم من قرة أعين جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. قيل عملهم الصيام. So in this ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about those that they don't know what is there for them من قرة أعين, from the pleasure of the eyes, جزاء بما كانوا يعملون, as a reward for that which they used to do. And this, the scholars are saying, is siyam, meaning that there's a certain reward that's going to bring you so much happiness, you're not even fully aware of it, but it is a reward, jaza. So you see, subhanAllah, it's as if you come in the afterlife and you see your palace and you see this and you see that, and then you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings you a whole other set of rewards and blessings and gifts. You say, where is this coming from? This is jaza'an bima kanu ya'malun. Allah just, mashallah, He gives and gives and gives handsomely. May Allah grant us and gift us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. طيب. Mundhir, what's the 2-minute warning? Or 2 minutes left for what? Oh, the inner versus outer? No, صلي على النبي. شكلك ما صليتش على النبي النهارده. No. Okay. All right. No, I mean, so, okay, fine. I'll stop here, but I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing here. No. So I said, so some things I already mentioned, so I can skip over them. I mentioned that shaitan runs through Adam like the blood runs in the veins. فَضَيِّقُوا مَجَارِيهِ بِالْجُوعِ. The way you restrict Satan is with hunger. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لعائشة رضي الله عنها داومي قرع باب الجنة. He said to her, keep on knocking on the door of Jannah. داومي قرع باب الجنة. قالت بماذا? She said, how do I do that, Ya Rasulullah? He said, بالجوع, with hunger. So hunger itself opens up realities of heavenliness that can only be opened with hunger. Right? Now the hunger that we're talking about is, if you will, the hunger that you experience in the day of Ramadan that does not lead to any type of illness or sickness, right? That's going to lead to harm. That is not hunger. That's considered harm that you're inducing upon yourself. But the hunger is that you restrict yourself in a way where you want more. And you say, خلاص اكتفيت, I'm sufficed. I don't need anymore. You take your need. Hasb ibn Adam, the true, what is sufficient or what is owed to the son of Adam is luqaymat yuqimna bihi sulbahu. Are bites of food that make me upright, that give me the requisite amount of calories or proteins or nourishment that keep me upright. But anytime I exit from the world of hunger into the world of shaba, where I'm now full, right? And I can't breathe and I can't move. It's like you have closed the doorway to Jannah and you have opened up the doorways to Jahannam. Because when a person enters into that state, what happens? Ibadah becomes the last thing you're interested in. Worship, remembering Allah, prayer, getting up, And being in the way of Allah is the last thing. You can't even move. I can't breathe. The itis has kicked in 10x. And the worst time to do that is in Ramadan. When you break your fast with a feast and you can't move, how am I going to pray? How am I going to pray successfully? How am I going to be present successfully? I can barely stay awake. There's a lot of people who do this. They eat intensely, they knock out, they wake up sometime after midnight, and they think that's a good routine. You know, depending on people and their schedules and their work schedules and whether they work or home or have to go out or the weekends, whatever the case is. But everyone has their poor habits in Ramadan. May Allah help us that we don't, Ramadan is we falsely present, look at the irony here. Ramadan is supposed to be a month where we celebrate not eating, but Ramadan is proactively a month where we celebrate eating. Like the best and most unique foods that are the likely most unhealthy foods are the ones that we have in Ramadan, the ones that we should absolutely not be eating. The greasiest, most sugary, most intense, most heavy, they're coming out. And like if you don't see them in Ramadan, it's not Ramadan. And it could end marriages and households. And every culture has their version of this. Now, I'm not saying it's haram or bad to have qatayif or anything like that. I had to at least out one of the cultures. But just have it in measure. May Allah help us. I mean, it's a real fitna, but we just have to put yourself in your mind right now. Ramadan is about not eating and not eating. Ramadan is about eating, and not about eating. May Allah help us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the nature of the fast and the perseverance of the fast. He says, "In tansurullaha yansurkum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum." If you bring victory to Allah, Allah will bring you victory and He'll keep your feet steadfast. He will enable you in a way that you never fathomed or could have understood about yourself. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who virtuously and righteously struggle in our way, we will guide them to our path. So if you sincerely struggle and I want you to, one thing that I want you to learn about the struggle is don't just struggle physically. Struggle here, but it's a virtuous struggle, meaning take the bull by the horns of struggle. I will not be defeated. I will not succumb. I am capable and competent in being a servant of Allah. I don't have to break down. Make that so, because sometimes we just physically struggle, but our emotions are all about just the release or the ease or the comfort or the end. That's why we stumble so hard when we break our fast. But if I have a resilience and a strength and a clarity of mind, I tell my son all the time, strong heart, strong body, strong mind. You always have to have strength. You can't just have a strong body without strong mind. There's some of the buffest guys on earth who are snowflakes. They can't handle a thing. You talk to them emotionally, they'll, discombobulate. No, we want to have strong. So I'm physically struggling, but I'm also emotionally and spiritually and psychologically, intellectually, I'm there for the fight. No, I will not. I will pray first. I will not indulge. I will pray tahajjud and qiyam in its entirety. I'm not going to be looking for that just midpoint where now I can flee from the masjid. Right? Which is a common practice. You see, there's there's the halfway point traffic. Because half point, it's khalas, alhamdulillah. It's as if now it's become what a bad sunnah that was started. Whoever started that sunnah, may Allah forgive them. Because every masjid has that sunnah. It's okay, the 21 rak'ah masajid, it's the post 8 rak'ah traffic. Because now, there's a mass exodus after 8. Those are the people who are confused in their fiqhi identity. Should I continue? Should I not? Should I do this? No, 8 is good, I'm out. Then there is the 8 rak'at masajid, after 4 are out. I encourage the 21 rak'at masajid to come to the 8 rak'at masajid and see. You can exit at 4. You don't have to wait for 8. Apparently, according to this unfortunate sunnah of our community. Now, if you need to leave, by the way, if you need to leave after 2, leave. If you need to leave, if you have to leave. But why an arbitrary, unnecessary nafsani departure point? You get what I'm saying? It's an unnecessary, nafsani-based departure point. I don't need to leave. I'm just leaving because, I don't know, this is when I leave. So make your leaving or walking away from the most sacred space, the house of Allah, with the Quran beautifully recited, where the angels are clamoring to be in the masjid. You better have a very good reason to leave the masjid. Don't just leave. Why would you? What's the point? What's the gain? There's literally nothing I'm gaining from leaving. I'm going home to be a bum. And we know that about ourselves. I'm not going home to do something virtuous. That's why I say if you have a need, you say, okay, but I have young children and I have to get home to put them to sleep. Fine. You put them to sleep. You say, Ya Rabbi, wallahi, if I didn't have to leave and go home and take the kids, I would not. You put the kids to sleep and you stand up and you finish your 4 rak'at. Show the integrity of your dedication, your commitment. No matter, and you may be deathly tired. Wallahi, even if you pray the remainder of your taraweeh with 1 ayah per rak'ah, do it. It's better than saying, well, I didn't pray the whole juz with the imam, what's the point? No. Even wallahi, if you find yourself and you're so tired you can't see, I'm going to pray each rak'ah with 1 ayah. Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Noon, Allahu Akbar. But just make sure you don't fall asleep after the noon, like you just fall into like make sure you get out of salah before you fall asleep. طيب. I went over time by 7 minutes now. So I can stop this section. Next section is on some of the fiqhi matters. So we'll pause here for a few minutes. I have 3 minutes and 30 seconds for questions on what we spoke about. That was the introduction, by the way. Now we're going to get into the outer and then the inner, inshallah. That was just the introduction. Questions? Pressing questions? I know there's going to be a lot of questions because it was just an introduction, but any questions? Thoughts, concerns? We're good? 3, 2, 1? Okay, Bismillah. طيب, let's continue inshallah. We're not stopping, we're going to continue. طيب, Bismillah. So now he talks about, we spoke about the introduction, now he's going to talk about some al-wajibat al-zahira. The outward obligations are 6, he says. The first obligation of the person who's entering into the fast of Ramadan is muraqabatu awwali shahri Ramadan. It is to look for the beginning of Ramadan. وَذَلِكَ بِرُؤْيَةِ الْهِلَالِ, and that is by seeing the crescent moon. Now, he here introduces the notion of the act of worship, the virtue of seeking out the crescent moon. I'm going to say something super high level. I'm not interested in getting into the debate. Regardless of whether you follow moon sighting, in the sense of you are local moon sighting or global moon sighting or whatever version of moon sighting you are part of, or you follow those who say the opinion of, scientific method and the calculations and the birth of the moon and so on. I'm not going to get into that debate. It's a belabored debate and I'm officially done with it. If that's interest of you, go read it about it if you don't know about it. But regardless, make seeking out the hilal of Ramadan an act of worship for you. Because it is. The Prophet ﷺ specifically said, to look for the hilal of Ramadan, to seek it out. So it should become a type of act of devotion for you. Now, principally, the reason fiqhiyan, from a legal perspective, it's necessary, because that's what marks the beginning of Ramadan. And there's a whole discussion in the books of fiqh about the nature of seeking out and seeing and who can see and what type of person can their sight of the hilal be valid or invalid. Does it require one person or two people? The person who sees it, are they dhabit and adl? Are they qualified? Do they have the requisite character and virtue and disposition? Have they sinned publicly or otherwise? It's a whole detailed fiqhi discussion about the integrity of the person who's viewing and seeing the moon. Can you take it or not? Does it have to be done by a group or can it be done by one? Can it be done by someone who's elderly and maybe has some, floaters in his eyes, or you know what I mean? Whatever, there's a whole discussion about that. But it's so detailed. Why? To say, understand the beginning of this month and when it comes in. Why am I saying that? I think there's something that's, regardless of the opinion you take, and I especially remind those who do not take the opinion of the moon sighting, and those who take the scientific method or follow the masajid that follow the scientific method. This is not commentary in any besmirching fashion. But don't become so accustomed to just following the calendar, following dates. The date was set to me, it's on this time, I'd say that's all I'm going to think about. No. Still be keen on seeking out the moon. Because take that as an act of virtue, an act of worship. The Prophet ﷺ told us to do that, so we do that. You know what I mean? Regardless of the fiqhi debate on this topic. So if you're somewhere where you can go out and see the moon, go out and see the moon. Follow the websites, Crescent Watch and otherwise, who are telling you about the moon and whether it's been sighted or not sighted. Do that proactively, as an act of devotion. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? I'm not commenting on the fiqhi debate. I'm saying regardless of which opinion you follow, make seeking out the moon an act of worship. And inshallah why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he would see the crescent, the new moon, the birth of the new, or the new moon when it was visible, he would point at the moon. He would point at the moon and he would say, Allahumma ahillahu alayna bil yumni wal iman wal salamati wal islam. Oh Allah, make this new hilal come upon us in a state of ease and faith and peace and salama, wellness and Islam and surrender. And he would point at the crescent, he would say, Rabbi wa Rabbuka Allah. My Rabb and your Rabb is Allah. If the Prophet ﷺ did that as an act of devotion. By the way, even if you don't see and you're in an area where it's not visible but it was seen elsewhere and it's your beginning of your Ramadan, whatever the case is, the first time you see the crescent, follow in the footsteps of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So I believe this is a very essential, and this is why he's bringing this as the first obligation. Athani, and just from a fiqhi consideration, the following. I personally believe that everyone should follow their community. The average standard Muslim should follow their community. If you are someone who believes extremely strongly in one opinion over the other and your community, and you feel that you are sinful, if you follow the community's position, then you quietly follow the opinion that the other opinion. You understand what I'm saying here? If your opinion, for example, is that you believe in moon sighting, and the community you follow does not do that, don't cause a ruckus. Quietly and to yourself, abide by the opinion that you believe you have to worship Allah with, and act accordingly. But the ulama say when it comes to the breaking of the fast, it's different. You do not remove yourself from your community at that point. So some of the ulama, they say, the majority opinion actually is that you break your fast with those who are fasting in your community, or breaking their fast in your community. Unless here you're a part of multiple communities and you can get by going and breaking your fast in the community that is like yours or so on. Here it's much more diverse, and so it's easier to kind of get away with having to but you don't fast when the community has broken its fast and fitr. That's a standard law for the most part amongst the fuqaha. Now, once again, if you feel, and there's so many details to this, but I'm just giving a general idea so that you appreciate the integrity of these acts, right? But my opinion to the standard average Muslim, find the community that you trust and that you believe, and the shaykh that you trust and you follow, and do what they do, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. And beware of getting into indulgent, exciting conversations where we can just besmirch each other. I do not endorse that at all. I think it's extremely blameworthy. And certainly, and I once again want to say this carefully, do not say that a whole other swath of Muslimin are evil and misguided. Don't do that. Taqillah, that's above your pay grade. Okay? It's above our pay grade. We may vehemently disagree with other opinions and really believe that it's just not a sound opinion. But when you have the ummah now is genuinely split on this matter, and it's hard to pinpoint, and we've tried multiple times, then just أنت تتعبد بما تتقرب به إلى الله. You worship by that which you get close to Allah with. You say, Ya Rabbi, this is how I want to get close to you, and please guide our ummah to what's best. And that's it. But there's no point in recycling and rehashing the same discussions every year, except for genuine learning. That's it. The second obligation that he says that we have to be mindful of is the niyyah. So he actually gives the Shafi'i opinion, which is where he says, لا بد لكل ليلة من نية مبيتة معينة جازمة. So the Shafi'is, every night of Ramadan, and the night starts at Fajr, at Maghrib. The night starts at Maghrib. Every night, there has to be a niyya mubayyata. And the Ahnaf also require nightly, but they're far more easygoing, right? Because for the Shafi'is, it has to be articulated and mentioned and categorical and so on. For the Hanafis, it's your awareness that, I'm going to fast. So it's the niyyah is not as, doesn't have to be as presently or articulated. The Malikis, alhamdulillah, in this regard are the easiest, because I'm a Maliki. It's you need the niyyah at the beginning of the month. So in the first night of Ramadan, you need the niyyah that basically takes care of the entirety of the month. And the reason being there's a difference because the fuqaha of the Shafi'iyya and the Ahnaf, they consider every night of Ramadan an individual act of worship, whereas the Malikis view the entire month of Ramadan as one big contiguous act of worship. So it suffices the niyyah in the beginning of Ramadan. So, but what's essential here is realizing something, and this is like kind of the spiritual dimension to the fiqh, is that Allah, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, your actions are by intention. So we are never people who are haphazard or sloppy about our actions. We always know what we're doing and why. There's an intentionality. That's why the Shafi'is, they'll even go to the point where they have to articulate the intention out loud. نَوَيْتُ صَلَاةَ الظُّهْرِ أَرْبَعُ رَكَعَاتٍ, etc. The Shafi'is sometimes go, in some of the opinions, go to that extent that you mention exactly the prayer that you're praying and how many raka'at, etc. But what you highlight here is the importance of the mindfulness of what I'm doing. That's why the Ahnaf are a little bit easier, because they're like, as long as you know what you're going to do, then you're set every night. You know you're going to fast a fast of Ramadan. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the presence of mind. The third obligation, and I'm just moving through these a little faster just so that if there's any like detailed fiqhi questions that you may have, I can field them, because I still want to get to the inner dimensions that we haven't gone to yet. Although I'm a little confused with the timing. Don't we have until 4? This is until the adhan. But we're not we're praying after the class? Inshallah. Okay. He says, number 3, الثالث الإمساك عن إيصال شيء إلى الجوف عمدا مع ذكر الصوم. He says now he's telling you about the withholding from إيصال شيء, from allowing anything to go into your jawf. Your jawf is your insides, not just your stomach, your insides. عمدا مع ذكر الصوم, wantonly. He says فيفسد صومه بالأكل والشرب. So sawm becomes corrupted by eating, by drinking, by al-huqna. Huqna are, sometimes there are certain types of injections that are made inside the jawf, right? Not necessarily shots that are taken in your veins, but inside your jawf. These are things that anything that would enter into your system makes your fast, in your system being your jawf, makes your fast invalid. But he says things like, for example, like if you have a wart, or you have a pus that's like pulled on your arm, or you do hijama, right, or put kuhul, things like this do not render your fast null and void. Now, once again, he is a Shafi'i giving the principal Shafi'i opinions, but at a high level for us as a community. Principally speaking, you want to make sure nothing goes into your jawf through your mouth, okay? Through your nose. So, nose drops. Ears are differences of opinion, but if you take drops that you can, I think a good general dabit is anything you can taste in your throat will invalidate your fast, right? So something that you take in through your mouth, through your nose, through your ears. The eyes are for the most part safe. the ulama, for the most part, do not consider the eyes to be a pathway into the internal state of being, meaning that eye drops, for the most part, are fine. Ear drops, depending on how deep they go in, if it's just external or goes in, it goes into your throat or not, if you can taste it or not, etc. Nose obviously is a pathway in, throat is a pathway in. Inhaling cigarettes invalidates. Things that you are purposefully now consuming, even if they're not food substances, you're purposely consuming, like pills, those are all invalidate the fast because they're going into your jawf. Now, what's important to understand is, if, for example, you're walking by and you smell some bukhur. No, you didn't purposely go and inhale bukhur, you smelled bukhur. Or you're at home and the food is wafting, especially for those who are cooking. If you're inhaling the fumes of the food, that does not break your fast. You're not purposefully going like trying to consume the fumes. You're smelling, it's an involuntary act. Okay? Enemas. There's a difference of opinion on whether or not enemas invalidate the fast. Someone who has constipation or deals with those types of issues, can they use enemas? Can they use suppositories? Because according to most of the fuqaha, it is a access point to the jawf. So just like the mouth is an access point and the nose an access point, that the rectum is also an access point. So you should not, use things. That's why they call it al-huqna sharjiyya, like what you can put into your through your rectum in that regard. So this is, meaning that you should stay away from these things unless you have a genuine medical condition that you, for example, cannot pass otherwise, and you need these things. Then you can take the minority opinion that says that it's valid. Any questions on this point? I just want to make sure, because these are a lot of questions about people. Inhalers are to be stayed away from. So inhalers, for the most part, do invalidate. There is a majority opinion that inhalers invalidate. So if you're asthmatic, so meaning you can use I'll come to you right now. You can use your inhaler at night, but the only time you use your inhaler during the day is when you're having an asthmatic attack, and now you're in a medical state. You're ill. So now you're dealing with your illness. But as just common usage, the majority opinion, and I believe this is the opinion that we should follow, is that it does invalidate, because it's a direct spray into the throat, right? And it's something that you're consuming. Yes. The what? Perfumes are fine. So brushing teeth are, there is a matter of difference of opinion on toothpaste. I believe staying away from toothpaste is awra, it's the safer route, because no matter what, you're going to consume some degree of that substance, right? So if you want to use the miswak to kind of just freshen up your mouth, and maybe rinse out your mouth with some water to remove kind of the intensity of it, then I think that is the safer route. During the day of Ramadan, I believe we should stay away from toothpaste. Wallahu a'lam. Mouthwash is similar to toothpaste. Yeah. So, listen, there are those who allow it. It is a minority opinion, they allow it. But the nature of toothpaste and mouthwash is that it is consumable. At the end of the day, there's the residue of it is there, and you're swallowing it and you're consuming it, right? So you stay away from it, especially because you're gargling it into your mouth or you're brushing it into your teeth, so it kind of gets embedded in your gums, on your tongue, in your mouth. It's not subtle. It's a pretty permeating substance. So the reality of consuming it is very real. So it is better, wallahu a'lam, to stay away from it. Any other questions in this regard? Yes. Yeah. So making wudu, if you make wudu and you're making the madmadma of wudu, and you spit out the water, and you you were keen on spitting it out, but you kind of feel that maybe some of the residue was swallowed, that's fine. That's not forgetfulness, that's just ma'fu anhu. There is something that's like ma'fu anhu because there is a certain level of haraj to really get rid of it. Like you're not going to sit there and then like hold a towel and like put it in your mouth and pat down to make sure no droplet. This haraj is unnecessary. But like if you do madma, you spit out and you're keen on spitting out, you didn't leave like a centimeter of water just settling on the bottom, but you feel like a drop or two went in, then inshallah there's no haraj in that. Yes. Spit? Can you swallow your spit? That's a good question. If your spit is just naturally generated in your mouth and it's a casual just swallowing, that's fine. But if it's spit that came from mucus that's in your throat or your nose and you have it on your tongue, that you spit out, you do not consume that. I mean, this is a little, people find this, but you know what I mean? That you should not swallow. You should not consume that because it's something that came out and then you put it back in. Different from saliva that's generated in the mouth, which is just naturally passing through. But for example, if and I don't mean to be grotesque here, but if you have nukham, if you have mucus that's in your nasal cavity and it goes from your nasal cavity to your throat, it doesn't make it into your mouth. And that sometimes what happens if you snort in and then something is just inside and you swallow it without it coming into your mouth, then that's fine. You're not compelled to spit it out into your mouth and then spit it out. So if it goes from your nose into your throat, then that's fine if it's just natural, mucus that's generated in nasal cavity. Any other hands I saw? Bukhur, yeah. Bukhur is it's not there's no haram. I mean, it's not something that's considered that something we consume. We don't inhale it, right? So it's just, a scent that is there that, should you be super excessive with it? Maybe, perhaps not. It's from the wara, but it does not invalidate. Allahu a'lam. A really steamy shower. Yeah, I mean, that becomes very problematic because if you're sitting there and the steam is and suddenly you come out and you feel refreshed and your lips are nice and red and you're then you became hydrated. No, so you don't take steamy showers in the day of Ramadan. You stay away from it. Jazakallah kullu khair, barakallah. Yes. Yeah, so miswak is actually another point of some discussion amongst the fuqaha. The Shafi'iyya actually say you stop miswak after dhuhr. So you're not allowed to make miswak after zawal al-shams. But if you're doing miswak and you spit out the pieces of wood or whatever that come and you are haris, you were keen on spitting out, and there's something that may have left behind and may be consumed, inshallah there's no haraj in that because that's ma'fu anhu, inshallah. Yes, sister in the back. Vomiting. We're going to get to vomiting. Okay, maybe we'll just take the questions and I can just speed through what we already went through. Vomiting is an important question. If you induce vomiting, categorically you invalidate your fast. So if you induce vomiting. Now, if you vomit just involuntarily, you happen to just find that something overtook you and you vomited, the ulama, they differ on that, but the majority say it does not invalidate. Some say the only type of vomiting so some say, the second point was, if you do not induce and it comes out involuntary, even if it comes from the depth of your stomach, because sometimes there's the vomit that comes from within that has a foul smell. That's where the ulama disagree. They say, the majority still say if that comes out involuntarily, it doesn't invalidate. Some say if that comes out, it invalidates. But then there is the vomiting that may come from the esophagus and it hasn't gone into the stomach and it's just maybe left over. Maybe you had a heavy suhoor and it's kind of almost like a spit up, of a child. When the child spits up after nursing, they haven't digested it. It's just kind of like an overflow. Then that is, by consensus, not a problem. right? If that just comes out involuntarily. But inshallah, even if the deeper, kind of more guttural, from within the digestive system type of vomit happens involuntarily, the majority say that also inshallah does not invalidate. Hopefully that clears that, inshallah. Yes, young man. Bleeding in your mouth. If you're bleeding your mouth and you spit it out and you wash it out well, and some trace amounts of blood that were in there that you weren't able to just control went in, then inshallah it's fine. Inshallah. Tayyib. Yes, brother. Well, should I do? Okay, I'll just answer this real quickly, uncle. But we'll get to the fidya and kafara. But fidya is, there's a few terms that you have to learn. One of them is called fidya. Fidya is the money that has to be paid by an elderly who is sick and does not assume that they will ever become well, or for nursing moms or pregnant moms who do not fast. And we'll talk about the fidya for that category in particular. But the amount should be, the equivalent of zakatul fitr. So whatever you pay for zakatul fitr is the amount, inshallah, that you pay for fidya per day. Yeah, so every day, if an elderly is not fasting because they are sick, then they pay the amount of zakatul fitr per day. Right? And that can be anywhere from, in our times, a range of $10 to $20, depending on the person's economic status and condition, because you can feed people for 10, people for 20, but that's a good range, I think, for the average Muslim in the West, inshallah. Tayyib. So, by the way, in terms of madmada, I'll come to you right now, sister. In terms of rinsing, because Imam Ghazali says something here that's important. He says, if you rinse your mouth casually in the wudu, like just a natural, casual rinsing, is fine. But if you gargle and you swallow, then you've broken your wudu. So if you aggressively rinse your mouth through gargling and you swallow, then you have invalidated. But if it's just the casual, simple rinsing of the mouth that happens in wudu and some trace amounts were swallowed, then that's fine, inshallah. Yes, sister. Rinsing the mouth is a sunnah, but fasting of Ramadan does not encourage not following the sunnah. So even though madmada is sunnah, you should complete the wudu as the Prophet ﷺ did it, with its fara'id and its sunan. Inshallah. Number 4, he says, al-imsaku an al-jima'. It is not one of the huge sins. Probably the biggest sin that the person who's fasting can commit is having intercourse in the day of Ramadan. And by intercourse, it's not just meant that the person actually comes to a point of full release. No, it is just the act of penetration. Just the simple act of penetration will cause a massive invalidation. It is a huge sin, and it cannot be corrected except with something called kafara. And the kafara is, what is the kafara? The kafara is either you free a slave, that doesn't exist in our time, you fast 2 months consecutively, or 60 days consecutively, or you feed sittina miskin. 2 months consecutively of fasting, or you feed 60 impoverished. And the majority of the ulama say you don't have the opinion to choose. You have to go 1-to-1. So if you can't do the freeing of the slave, then the next option is the fasting of 2 months. So this is, and if you can't do the fasting of 2 months, then you feed the 60 people. But this is a huge sin, and it is a massive infraction, and it invalidates harshly the nature of your fast. So you stay away from any form of intimacy in that regard, in terms of jima' specifically. Not any form of intimacy does not have the same level. It is the actual act, right? Even if you don't come to the point of release or relief. Now, if you have relations with the spouse in the night and Fajr came and you have not made ghusl, that's fine. It does not invalidate or compromise your fast. You can have intimacy. I'm not saying it's ideal or recommended, but if it so happens to be that you had relations with your spouse and it's Fajr time has come in and you have yet to make ghusl, then you can make ghusl and continue to and fast, and you're completely fine. You don't need to be in ghusl to have the niyyah. To have the intention of fasting does not require ghusl. So that's the same rule plays out for, someone who slept and had a ihtilam. They had what is known as a wet dream. Then the same rule applies. You wake up, it's Fajr, and you are in that state. You can get up and make ghusl and fast, and everything's completely fine, right? But if someone induces that act in the day of Ramadan, right, outside of, now we moved beyond intercourse in the day of Ramadan, now it's just inducing that state of janaba through their own actions or whatever the case is, then that certainly invalidates the fast. That requires a repetition of that day. It is a deeply sinful act. The ulama do slightly disagree on whether it's given the rule of jima' or if it requires just a repeating of that day, right? But regardless, you should not do it. By the way, the Ahnaf are, in terms of kafara, the toughest, because the Ahnaf say you have to do kafara if you eat purposefully or you drink purposefully as well, not just jima'. The other madhahib don't require that. It's just for that. But if in that Hanafi madhab, if you eat purposefully during the day of Ramadan or you drink purposefully, you purposefully break your fast, then it requires the kafara that we spoke about for intercourse. But for the Shafi'i and others, it's just that only applies to intercourse. So we spoke about vomiting. Now, what is required when you miss a day of fasting? You fall into one of these categories or multiple of these categories. Number one, if you miss a day of fasting for whatever reason, fast always has to be made up. That's a simple rule of thumb. If you do not fast and you can make it up, and you don't make it up, then you have sinned and you have not completed an obligation. So if you missed a fast because of menstruation, you missed a fast because of sickness, you missed a fast because of breastfeeding or because of pregnancy, you have to make up that fast. Qada'an, right? That's called qada'. Is that clear? If you're sick and you have no hope of ever becoming well, and you have a terminal condition or you have a lifelong medical condition where the doctor says you cannot fast and you have to drink and you have to take your meds, then that person does not have to worry about ever making up their fast. They just have to pay their fidya. Is that understood? Now, the kafara we spoke about. The kafara is a certain type of expiation of the sin that is required for the person who does intercourse, or according to the Hanafis, drinks purposefully or eats purposefully in the day of Ramadan. Fidya is something that applies to a lot of categories of people. So fidya applies to the one who, like I said, the elderly person or the sick person who is never going to be able to fast again. They have to pay fidya every year. When it comes to the woman who does not fast because of breastfeeding, or because of pregnancy, or because of menstruation, that lack of fasting has to be made up. And if you're able to fulfill what you've missed in the coming year, but you did not fulfill it, so you were able to fast those 7 days or those 30 days or those whatever days, numbers of days were, and you did not fast them for whatever reason, you lost sight of time, you got lazy, whatever the case is, and the next Ramadan comes, that you have to pay fidya for the days that you missed, and you still have to do qada. You still have to make up the fasts that you missed, right? And I advise, our mothers, may Allah bless them, those who had many years of childbearing and pregnancies and breastfeeding, and they may have not fasted for, could be, 5, 6, 7 years of time perhaps, make a niyyah to fast those days that you missed. If you were able to fast them and you did not, then you just have to pay the fidya one time for the day that you missed. You don't have to pay it every year if you're missing every year, but you have to make it up. Right? You have to make it up. I know there's opinions out there that say you can just pay the fidya. I believe that's a very weak opinion, humbly, with all due respect to the mashayikh. That is a very weak opinion. It's a minority opinion that say you can just pay it off and you're done. Wallahu alam, I believe the stronger opinion is that you should make up that day and have a niyyah. Even if you put it, you say, okay, I'm gonna, inshallah, before I die, Ya Rabbi, I want to make up these days. And every year try to make up those days to the best of your ability. And inshallah, it's very doable, and I've been through this with many, many women. So inshallah, make the niyyah, bi'idhnillah. The other thing about women who are pregnant or who are nursing, just a piece of advice about choosing not to fast. There is like a default setting in the Muslim community that, khalas, you're pregnant, you don't fast. That's not also always like automatic. So my advice to you is, and also it's not so egregious where you have to like push and agonize to try to fast. There's a happy medium somewhere in the middle where you check where you are in your pregnancy, your general health, you speak to your gynecologist, the time of year of fasting, all of those factor in. If it's reasonable and it's not overly exerting for the woman's body, herself, her health, or going to put any type of risk on the child, then try to fast, inshallah. So don't just assume I'm pregnant, I'm done. And the same thing also goes for nursing. Okay, there's the common rule of thumb that if I'm nursing, I'm going to compromise my milk flow and production. That's not the case for all women all the time, right? But if you find that trying to fasting while nursing is unduly exhausting for you as a nursing mother, or your milk is kind of lessening or drying up, then you don't have to fast. So you don't have to go to any extremes here. Don't be a default setting, there's a lot of people I'm not going to fast because I'm nursing or because I'm pregnant. Don't be to that extreme, and don't be in the extreme of like trying to push and agonize and compel yourself. Just a level of hardship and mashaqqa where the mother becomes genuinely drained and she's just like not able to function at a good state, that suffices for her to say, khalas, you don't fast. Inshallah. Is that clear? Any points need clarification from the mothers or the women in the back? Yes?
If there's somebody who's elderly and terminally ill, so falls into the category of they're not able to fast, but let's say they also lack the mental cognition to work, or even know that they need to fast, should their family be paying the fidya on their behalf, or are they solve that out?
So they don't have the mental cognition, like they don't even know that they're responsible?
Correct, yeah.
If the family wants to pay as just an act of like extra protection for the welfare of their father or their mother, that's fine. Or the elderly. Is that person legally responsible to do that? No. Because they're marfu' anhum at-taklif. Another important topic, you just remind me of something. Yes. Oh, marfu' anhum at-taklif is that rufi'a al-qalamu, Allah says the pen has been lifted from al-ghaib hatta yafiq, the person whose mind is gone until they come back. So if this person is gone, they're mentally gone, then there's no legal responsibilities upon them or accountability upon them. They're not there. Al-majnoon hatta yafiq, the person whose mind has gone until they come back to their senses, if they come back. About eating mistakenly in the day of Ramadan. Okay. Important notes here. The Shafi'is, the Hanafis, and the Hanbalis all say if you eat by mistake, forgetfully, you're just going in the kitchen, you grab a cup, you put it in the cup, you drink. Oh my God, I ate or drink. The Hanafis, the Shafi'is, and the Hanbalis say that forgetfulness is excused. You continue fasting. So that day is not compromised. The Malikis don't have it that easy. The Malikis, if you eat or drink mistakenly, that day is corrupted but you also have to continue to fast. So we double up on the. Like, you have to do. It's called imsak. It's not actually called siyam. It's called imsak. You're just withholding at that point until maghrib. Right? Now, if you are someone who, even if you like brazenly, I mean, if you broke your fast for whatever reason, that doesn't give you a licensure to continue eating throughout the day of Ramadan. You ate once, so if you wantonly broke your fast, then you're sinful for breaking your fast and eating all throughout the day. So you can't just continue to eat. Right? Imsak is necessary. For those who are traveling, a very important point that most people get wrong, unfortunately, is that if you start your travel after Fajr, you have to fast that day. So you can't say, I'm traveling at 7 a.m., Fajr is at 6 a.m. You can't say, well, I'm traveling, so I'm not fasting. No. For that fast to be suspended, you have to start traveling before the fast comes in. You understand? Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm traveling, and like go run to the airport and go to the first, bagel shop that they can grab. No. If you start traveling after Fajr and it's a day of Ramadan and you've entered into Siyam and you have no choice but to enter into Siyam, you can't choose not to, then you have to fast. The only way you can ultimately break your fast is if hardship descends upon you. Meaning like, I just can't fast anymore. It's too much. I'm becoming dysfunctional. I'm this. So because of illness, now you break your fast. And then you make up that day. Is this clear? Yes. Whether it's 6 or 28, you started fasting at daybreak, and you're going to break your fast at sunset. So anyone who's traveling on planes, you follow the sun. Wherever the sun, you just left New Jersey and whatever, and the sun was supposed to set in 8 hours, but now it's setting in 2 hours. 2 hours, you break your fast. Khalas, you follow the sun. The sun's set for you now. Now, if the sun is not setting, it's 20 hours in, it's just like, when is the ghurub going to happen? You still push yourself to the point. Now, this is where there's some interesting fiqhi discussions about what is, do you follow Mecca at that point? Do you follow the most, nearing city that may now be breaking their fast? Because sometimes it happens in those who are like in the North Pole and they have 24, 22-hour days of fast and so on. Can they break at 18 hours? That's a different conversation. But the rule of thumb is you follow the sun. And you break your fast when the sun sets. If it happens to be that the mashaqqa and you're not clear and it's too much and it's overwhelming and you're getting exhausted, then you break your fast, inshallah, and you repeat it. And that's the safest thing to do at that point. Wallahu a'lam. Yes, sister. No, just one time. If there's a time, if you had the opportunity to fast those missed days, and you did not, then you have to pay for one time for those days missed, and then inshallah make up those days. Compounding would be pretty intense. There's a lot of people who are going to have to spend thousands of dollars. There's an auntie, may Allah bless her. She told me, I didn't fast for 7 years of my life because I was nursing and pregnancy and nursing and pregnancy, nursing, all. And she finished making up her days in her 70s. Slowly but surely. And she had a notebook, and every day she would put. SubhanAllah. So, just make the niyyah. Even, by the way, even if you don't complete it. But just have the intention, Ya Rabbi, I sincerely want to make up these days because I take the days of Ramadan very seriously. Sorry. Any other questions? We're doing all the fiqh now, so we're getting out of the way. This is good. Yes, young brother. And you just fast forever. He's like, well, no. He's like, he looked at me like, what? What's this guy? No, then if you pass an entire day, then you definitely break your fast. So 24 hours is definitely a cutoff point. Honestly, some of the opinions say 18 hours is a cutoff point. But these are all almost like New Age opinions because this was not an identifiable problem of the past. Some say you take the opinion of the closest land that may be breaking the fast at that, longitude or latitude. Like you find that country and then maybe you're close to that. That's why they'll say something like if you're in the North Pole, then maybe you try to break your fast in accordance with what's happening in Europe, example, or like. So those opinions exist. Don't worry, you're good. Don't worry about fasting 24 hours. طيب. خلاص, we spoke about qada, kathara, imsak, fidya. Any other major fiqhi questions before we get into the spiritual dimensions? Yes. Yes. That's a good question. The woman whose menstruation ends in the middle of the day, does she have to do imsak? The answer to that question is no, you don't have to do imsak. You can continue considering that just a day of not fasting. And just eat, but also do not eat brazenly. It's not recommended in the day of Ramadan to eat kind of in, just like as if it's like a normal day. So just be more casual about the way you eat, or more, maybe not, I don't say you have to hide it. You don't have to be, like you're committing a crime, but, try not to be so, forthcoming with it. Wallahu a'lam. Definitely not in public spaces. Like, don't be forthcoming about it in public spaces. Like, you have to do what is known as mura'at, shahr. You want to be respectful of the ecosystem that you're in of the month of Ramadan, and this is a month of fast. In your home, obviously, you can be, less diligent in that regard. But respect the other people who are fasting in the house as well. طيب. In terms of the sunan of the fast, there are 6. The first sunnah is suhoor, eating your suhoor. That's a very important sunnah and should not be missed. And the Prophet ﷺ says there is a certain barakah in suhoor. There's a certain blessing in suhoor. So even a lot of people say, I don't have suhoor, I can't eat yet. I understand there's households in certain cultures that they're having a feast at suhoor. They're having like the chicken and the biryani and I kind of gave the hint of which culture. Like this is wow. this is the sihri. So, but regardless, if you're not, it doesn't mean you have to have a feast. But even a sip of water suffices as suhoor. So wake up for suhoor. Don't say, because sometimes people do this, don't wake me up for suhoor. Okay, just let me sleep in, whatever. No. Wake up for suhoor, even if the water is by your bed. Get the barakah of suhoor. A very important point is that people think that if there's food in their mouth, when the adhan comes, they can swallow it. That's an opinion that kind of floated around for a while. You cannot do that. Right? If the adhan hits, you spit out what's in your mouth. It's over. There's no consuming. The Prophet ﷺ said that specific hadith about itmam at-ta'am with regards to the first adhan, because the Sahaba were confused when the first time they heard the first adhan, which is the adhan of waking people up for tahajjud, the adhan of getting people aware that suhoor is coming up or fajr is coming close. That's the first adhan that you find in many Muslim countries today. You find it in the Haramain. The Prophet ﷺ was talking about that because the Sahaba, they heard the adhan of Sayyidina Bilal, and he said, no, complete what you're eating, even if the adhan comes in. That's just to say why, because that's the first adhan. That's not the adhan of fajr. That's the adhan of just tahajjud, of waking people up. So the adhan of fajr, yes, when it comes in, you're done. You cut off immediately. Is that clear? The second sunnah is ta'jilul fitr. So the first sunnah is suhoor. The second sunnah is ta'jilul fitr, is immediately breaking your fast when maghrib comes in. From the sunnah of Ramadan is generosity in Ramadan, meaning that you should be spending very generously. The Prophet ﷺ كان أجود ما يكون في Ramadan. So Imam al-Ghazali is highlighting this as a sunnah of Ramadan, right? Not just a good act, but a sunnah act in Ramadan is to be generous and kind in giving. Make sure, this is from the obligations, but something that you should do proactively is pay your zakat al-fitr, and don't just wait until the end of Ramadan to pay your zakat al-fitr. Give it to the people so that they can benefit from it in the month of Ramadan. That's why, by the way, in the Shafi'i madhab, they pay their zakat al-fitr in Sha'ban, so that people can start to have their zakat throughout the month of Ramadan. They can buy things for their children, take care of their needs and food. So pay your zakat al-fitr early. I know we have a habit. It's like Eid and the boxes there, and brothers, sisters, if you have not paid, pay now. Okay, but when are the people who are going to need that money get it? They're not going to get it for Ramadan or for Eid or anything. So make sure you pay your zakat al-fitr, early, and make sure people are able to benefit those that they need to benefit. From the sunan of Ramadan is the recitation of the Book of Allah. It's a very important act of worship that you and I should be keen on doing in the month of Ramadan. And I want to tell you right now, please, 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 I joked about this the other day, but I mean it seriously. We end up doing to ourselves a disservice when we start this super intense, rigorous schedule that we're going to maintain. We fall flat on our face within 2-3 days, and then we are done. We started strong. We started like the first night of Taraweeh. The Mus'haf was out. We had the Sajadat al-Salah out there. The bukhur was burning. The candle were lit. The romantic, you're just sitting there reading the Quran, and you feel the angels around you, and you finish a juz, and maybe you even go like an extra cut. Look at me, subhanAllah, I'm ahead of the curve. Day 2 comes in, you go to work, you're going, inshallah, and tonight I'm just going to have Shaykh. I go to sleep, I'm really tired, I'm going to go sleep. Day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6 come in, and you're like barely still on the second or third juz. So please, please, please do not set yourself up to fail. Listen, it would be beautiful that all of us recite the entire Quran in Ramadan. That's a beautiful thing. May Allah grant us that. But don't say it's either all or nothing. So if adaful iman, if the least of what you have is to read a page a day, then do that. Just don't deprive yourself from the Quran. It's a beautiful act of worship, a beautiful, necessary sunnah. This is the month of the Quran. So every day you should be reading the Quran. It doesn't mean that because you're not reading one juz, that you should read no juz, no piece of it. مَا لَا يُدْرَكْ كُلُّهُ مَا لَا يُدْرَكْ كُلُّهُ لَا يُتْرَكْ جُلُّهُ. That which is not going to be realized in its entirety should not be left in its entirety. Is this clear? So please don't set yourselves up to fail. The same thing when it comes to Taraweeh and Tahajjud. The same logic. We're either doing all of Taraweeh or we're doing nothing of Taraweeh. We're either doing all of Tahajjud or nothing of Tahajjud. This is a really bad way to worship Allah, because you're making it a zero-sum game. No. I'm telling you, wallahi, even if it comes down to it, and in the night all you were able to get were 2 rak'at of Taraweeh and 2 rak'at of Tahajjud, alhamdulillah. You got something. You got something good. So don't dismiss yourself by saying, look at me, because listen, the nafs wants to pull you down as hard as possible. So you set yourself up, you fail, and then you realize you fail, quote unquote, and then you think to yourself, what's the point? All right, here I am. And you start to resent and feel like you're just more worthless because you see all these people clamoring to be in the masjid, and people talking about how they prayed tahajjud and qiyam, and the masjid was packed, and you were snoring in bed watching Netflix because you felt like, what's the point? So don't do that to yourself. And certainly make Ramadan a window of time where you stay away from sinfulness and any of your poor routines. Social media habits, your relationship with social media should change drastically. I'm not going to say, eliminate its entirety, because that may be too much of a fitna for people, because then it'll be like, they'll start binge social mediaing after first day, like, okay, I deleted my app. Second day I re-downloaded it because someone said there was a funny TikTok video I had to watch. So my advice is, if I were you, I would delete the app from the phone. Definitely from where it's accessible. Maybe if you need to have 1 or 2 of your social, if you need to have them, then have them on your laptop or your desktop where you have to go to them and sign in, right? Just don't make it accessible. So don't have your phone accessible in a way where you can be distracted. Take off the notifications from WhatsApp, all that stuff. Just remove the notifications so that you can only check your WhatsApp when you go to it. Don't let the pop-ups be there. Don't let there anything popping up on your phone except like messages or calls that you need to take in. The last sunnah that we'll mention before we get into the inner dimensions is, we only have, what do we have left? 3:20? Okay, so we're good. The last one I'll mention is i'tikaf. From the beautiful sunan of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ would be very keen on doing himself and encouraging the Sahaba to do is i'tikaf. So every single one of us should have the niyyah of i'tikaf. Even the women who cannot go to the masjid for whatever reason should make the niyyah of i'tikaf in their home. The Ahnaf allow this in particular, that you can make i'tikaf in your home. All right? So and by i'tikaf in your home means that you designate a space in your home that's going to be for your imagining yourself in the masjid doing your ritual worship. And it could be literally the width of a musalla, a prayer rug. It doesn't have to be a room. It could be the corner of a room. It could be a prayer area, just a prayer rug that you're going to designate for yourself for a window of time. And consider i'tikaf. Now, the Malikiya are pretty strict about what they technically consider to be i'tikaf. Right? They're the most strict by far, because it includes from Maghrib until after Fajr. We don't have partial i'tikaf. That's for us is considered partial i'tikaf. But the Shafi'iyya, alhamdulillah, they exist in this space. They kind of open up the door wide. You can be in the masjid for 1 minute and it's considered an i'tikaf. But let's not just play games with the madhahib here. I don't like to encourage that at all. I would say that try to make it that you have, especially in the last 10 nights, that you're going to designate a large window of time to the house of Allah. If you're able to do last 10 nights of Ramadan in i'tikaf, I mean, you've hit jackpot. It's the most sacred and blessed thing that you can do for yourself. And if you're actually capable of doing it, you just laziness is depriving you, then go do it. Then push yourself this year. You won't regret it. It will be the most special act of your life. But if you are someone who's gonna go home for whatever reason, or you're gonna, then try to get the best of both worlds. Try to say, I'm gonna do i'tikaf from at least from Taraweeh until Fajr, right? On the days that you can, if your work allows for it, or your schedule allows for it, your routine allows for it, then do it. And try to also alter your routine where you can do it, right? So if you can take days off, maybe some of the Islamic schools, I know the schedule for the kids are off, like you can start to like play around with the calendar a little bit, then do that inshallah. But don't miss out on i'tikaf. Don't like as a default say, like, because some of us, i'tikaf is not even in our radar. Like maybe I'll be more present in the masjid in the last 10 nights. No, but make the niyyah of the sunnah of i'tikaf. Inshallah, is that clear? Lastly, inshallah, we'll transition into the deeper kind of sacred realities of fasting, as Imam al-Ghazali tells us about in the Ihya. And then we'll be closing, inshallah, ending by 4 bi'idhnillah. He says, اعلم أن للصوم 3 درجات. That for fasting there are 3 levels. صوم العموم وصوم الخصوص وصوم خصوص الخصوص. He says there is صوم العموم, which is the commoner's fasting. And that is when the person just does not eat or drink or have intimacy. And that's all their fasting entails. Is that the only thing their fasting entails is they don't eat and they don't drink and they don't have intimate acts. That is, he says, the commoner's fast. That fast is a technically legally sound fast. You check the box, but you did not benefit, from the actual fast, the spiritual reality of the fast. You did not. That's why in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, Allah has no need for you to not eat or drink. That's not the need. That's not the objective, that you just did not eat or drink or you became hungry. What is Allah going to do with your hunger just for the sake of your hunger? No, there is a deeper reality that Allah is wishing and willing and imploring you to have. So the first type of fast is the one who just doesn't eat and drink and have intimacy. The second is صوم الخصوص. فهو كف السمع والبصر واللسان واليد والرجل وسائر الجوارح عن الآثام. The second level is the more, the special type of fasting, is the one who on top of eating, drinking and intimacy They also do the fasting of their ears, the fasting of their eyes, the fasting of their tongue, the fasting of their hands, the fasting of their feet, and all of their other limbs. So now I will fast. Genuinely, you should take a social media fast. Genuinely, you should take a music fast. This is when you want to start entering into the deeper spiritual realities of Ramadan. If it's just about fulfilling an obligation, I don't really care what it is, I just want to get it done. Okay. But what are you going to get out of your fast then? Not much. Not much. Just some hunger. What's the point? No, but why don't I actually embrace the possibility of this moment? I'm not going to listen to any more filth, no more curse words, no more music that's just doing nothing for me other than taking me away from Allah. No more watching stuff, no more, videos and clips and images that are just completely corrupting my soul. I've said this in the past. When the AI, the AI generated images. What are they called? They're called AI slop. In our vernacular, who consumes slop? Pigs. Isn't that what they do? You go to a farm and you see pig slop. And what is slop? It's just a bunch of whatever. And you see this pig just with the nose in, oink oink, jumping in, whatever, barely able to breathe, devouring all of the slop. What happens when you and I are just consuming this endless feed of slop? Even I've said this in the past, the word feed. What is it? Shaykh Hamza Yusuf talks about feed. This idea of feed. Just feed. You're feeding like cattle, and then these platforms are feeding on you. We are the feed for the platforms. So if I'm the feed, and now I'm just consuming slop all day, what is that doing to me? It's killing me. So we don't need to be consuming this slop. So inshallah, we'll have a serious fast from those realities. Also, your ears. In Ramadan, someone calls you, wants to talk about nothing, and just run their mouth and start dabbling in some backbiting and gossiping, and did you see and did you hear and then whatever. You say, I'm so sorry, I love you so much, I just can't do this. I love you, I'm sorry to hurt you, I don't hope I don't you're hurt, but we cannot have this conversation right now. And be loving and caring, but just I'm not going to be backbiting during the day. Why? Why would I kill my fast by backbiting and gossiping and just talking on the phone? Same thing with the messages. Endless messaging, sharing, whatever, screenshots of what someone else said, and can you believe that? And I can't believe she said that, and I can't believe he said that, what's going on, whatever. And you're sitting there consumed, and you're ignoring your kids, and ignoring your home, and ignoring your work, and ignoring life, because oh my God, this message, I have to respond. I cannot respond to it. No, that's fast from all that nonsense. Also your tongue. Our tongue, don't forget this tongue, there's that which I listen to and that which I say. And the Prophet ﷺ says, وَهَلَّا يُكَبُّ النَّاسُ عَلَى وُجُوهِهِمْ. If that, are people not thrust on their face in Jahannam except for that which their tongues have wrought? Their tongues are the number one thing that make people fall flat, flat on their face in Jahannam. تَهْوِي بِهِمْ. إن المرأة لا يتلفظ بالكلمة أو لا يتكلم بالكلمة. The person may say a word لا يلقي بها بالا, doesn't really give it too much attention. تهوي به إلى أسفل السافلين. It will take them into the depths of Jahannam. The tongue. So fast. Learn to not speak. And the last, kind of special level that Imam Al-Ghazali, the khusus al-khusus, the special of the special, he says it is فصوم القلب عن الهمم الدنيوية والأفكار الدنيوية. الهمم الدنية والأفكار الدنيوية. He says it is now when you make the heart fast of any of the lowly concerns. And here the himam ad-daniya are anything other than Allah. Now, because we go into Ramadan and we have to be very careful about this. We have humum. We have things that are burdening us. I have a strained marriage. I have a problem with my child. I have a health issue or condition. I have things that are occupying my mind and consuming me. I want to enter in Ramadan and I want my concern to be Allah. So the fast of the heart is, Ya Rabbi, the only thing that concerns me is you. And this is khusus al-khusus. You really have to push and challenge yourself to get into this stage where you're like, and you make dua for this. Ya Rabbi, Allahumma ajma' humumi alayk. Ya Rabbi, make all of my humum you. I just want one concern. So I don't want to be scattered, because sometimes we get so scattered in our humum, our concerns, they overwhelm us. They become daunting. We stop even knowing how to make dua. Like, oh, okay. I asked for this, I asked for that. What else do I have to ask for? I have like a list, 65 on the list of what I need. Sometimes just say, Ya Rabbi, can you make my only concern you? Just gather all of them together, and I want them to be one, you. I just want to be concerned about you. I want to stop stressing about my health. I want to stop agonizing about my spouse. I want to stop agonizing about my children. I want to stop this obsession I have with like the relationship I have with my mom or my dad, or what's happening politically or whatever. I want this to stop, Ya Rabbi. I want to have one concern, you. That's sawmul qalb. It's as-sawmu anil aghyar. It's when you are fasting from everything other than Allah. So anyone comes talk to you about anything, I'm fasting. Brother, I just asked you like about like, if you want to come into this business deal, like, I'm fasting. It's like, because the Prophet ﷺ says if someone comes or tries to fight you, curse you, say, inni sa'im, I'm fasting. So the one who has sawm al-khusus is like, I'm in Ramadan. I don't talk about that stuff. I don't think about that stuff. I'm out of the dunya. Transported myself out. And even obviously there are those who have to work and those who have to tend to the needs and pass tests and whatever. But even when you're doing it like measuredly. Like, I'm doing this thing, I have to do it, I get it done, I'm out. I'm not dilly-dallying in the space of the dunya. How often can I just consciously and mindfully only be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allahumma arzuqna ya Rabbil Alameen. So he says, وَأَمَّا صَوْمُ الْخُصُوصِ وَهُوَ صَوْمُ الصَّالِحِينَ فَهُوَ كَفُّ الْجَوَارِحِ الْآثَامُ وَتَمَامُ بِسِتَّةِ أُمُورٍ. How do you realize? He says, the last one is very hard. It's the sawm of the awliya and the siddiqeen. That's khusus al-khusus. The first one, the awam, everyone does it. But he's saying, okay, let me help you get into at least, the sweet spot of that middle point of sawm al-khusus. Here are the 6 things you need to understand. He says, number 1, غض البصر وكفه عن الاتساع في النظر إلى كل ما يذم ويكره. You have to learn to lower your gaze in Ramadan. Just stop looking at things. Stop concerning yourself with, what's happening around you. Stop reading billboards. Stop paying attention to stores and deals and, sales and whatever potential. And don't worry about the designs you want or the clothing you want to buy. Lower your gaze. Just lower them completely. And certainly from anything sinful or blameworthy. Or anything that may consume the heart. كل ما يشغل القلب. If my heart is going to become excited by this, there's a topic that you want to bring up. Sometimes spouses would do this. They get into like massive debates and arguments in Ramadan. What are we doing? It's Ramadan, people. Let's just put our arms down, okay? I mean like our weapons. Okay. Your tongue and my tongue were just the harshest possible weapons we have. And we just can't control ourselves, so we hit hard. And we say the most scathing, biting thing, and it just consumes us. And there goes, you know what? And we'll get so consumed, there goes, I barely fasted. I barely prayed Maghrib. Definitely Taraweeh is out. The Quran is gone. Why? Because I got myself stuck in the dunya. So if there's an opportunity that you're going to be enticed in dunya, just meaning that you're not crazy about the food, or crazy about something in the home, or crazy about how your husband smells, or whatever the case is. Lower your gaze. I know it's a sensorial thing, smell, but like lower your gaze. Still, don't, be careful of exciting realities around you that are just going to consume you. Don't pick a fight that you can't, just don't. So you have to have self-control. And this is how you can start to enter, because what did we say about fasting in the first place? Fasting is when you do tadyiq, when you restrict and constrict the pathways of Satan, then you're giving opportunity for light to flow through you. But when you become angry during Ramadan, what happens? The revelation is not has nowhere to go. I'm too angry. That's why the Prophet ﷺ reminded the Arabi, the Bedouin, 3 times, what's your advice, Ya Rasulullah? La taghdab, la taghdab, la taghdab. Don't become angry, don't be angry, don't be angry. Why? Because the angry person's like a drunkard. Right? Why did you divorce? I was so angry. Why did you hit? I was angry. So effectively you're a crazy person. Has no self-control. Shaykh, I was angry. Right? You wreaked havoc and you caused a disaster. You broke your home and you harmed people. You committed such sins and whatever, all because you justified for yourself you were angry. And this goes for men and for women, by the way. Because there's this like justification of the dignity of the self. Well, I was angry. And everyone believes they have some sort of like moral indignation. But my anger is righteous. No, that's just ego. So don't become angry. And don't invite anger. And don't pick fights. And get out of each other's nafsani ways. Right? Be pleasant. The Prophet ﷺ says, Inni sa'im, I'm fasting. That's something you may have to articulate to someone, but it's also something you say to yourself. So you're saying to yourself first, Yasir, don't forget you're fasting. And this is a sacred covenant with Allah. And He says it's for me. And I want access and I want invitation into the world of the divine. I want to be present with Allah. Allah's not going to bring next to Him those who are, drunk on anger and feelings and emotion and desires. And, I'll tell you right now, if you're coming into Ramadan and you're drunk on your emotions and you're consumed by your feelings, by your hurt or your trauma or your anger or whatever, and it's completely controlling you, break free right now. Ya Rabbi, I don't want to worship my feelings anymore. I don't want to be subdued by the pain or the worry or the hurt or how my husband treats me or my wife treats me or my children or this or my mom or my dad or what's happening physically. I don't want to be controlled by that. I want to only be submitting to you. May Allah help us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And the Prophet ﷺ says, النظرة سهم مسموم من سهام إبليس. The nadra, the look, is a poisoned arrow of shaitan. So one look, it's like a poisoned arrow of Satan. فمن تركها خوفا من الله أتاه الله عز وجل إيمانا يجد حلاوته في قلبه. The one who leaves a gaze, a look that they really like for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it for them with a sweetness in their heart. They will find iman, they will find faith, and they'll find sweetness in their heart because they looked away. And looking away is not just now, for us now in this category, is not just from the things that are haram. It's just looking away. I don't need to know. I don't need to see. Please don't tell me. Akhi, don't share that with me in Ramadan, please. Don't tell me about what this person did. I don't need to know about the evils of all the other people. I have my stuff right now. Imagine yourself on the day of judgment and the prophets, you run to them and the prophets say, like Adam and otherwise, except Sayyidina Muhammad, they say, today I have to resolve my problems. I have stuff I have to take care of ma'Allah. I don't have time for this. So effectively, I don't have time for that. I have to do me. I have to take care of my stuff. So the first is guarding the eye, the second is guarding the tongue, من الهذيان والكذب والغيبة والنميمة والفحش. We spoke about this, so I won't belabor that. But the categories he mentions, al-hadayan. Hadayan is just frivolous speech. And most of our speech is just frivolous. And most of our writing is frivolous. And my 2 cents on everything is frivolous. And my commentary on everything that other people are doing is frivolous. This is hadayan. It's just empty, vacuous, frivolous speech. Wal-kadhib, obviously lying and backbiting and spreading gossip and doing qadhf and accusing people of things. And wallahi, you don't understand, they're a thief. I've had it all the time. People are in disputes, and especially marital disputes or business disputes. Big accusations. Thief, zani. Shaykh said, wallahi, I didn't commit zina. No, Shaykh, wallahi, he committed zina. Okay, here, we're starting to say really big things. You're entering into territory of qadhf, right? Recently, I dealt with a situation like this. Someone said, no, I didn't commit zina. It was a technically halal relationship. Wallahi, he committed zina. Okay, just reel that one in. That's a big claim now. When you do qadhf, when you accuse someone of infidelity, it's either that person or it's you. So you better check your tongue. Even if your high best assumption is that perhaps like I don't have 4 witnesses. You get what I'm saying here? May Allah protect us. And subhanallah. Imam al-Layth, he says, خِصْلَتَانِ تُفْسِدَانِ الصِّيَامِ الْغِيبَةُ وَالْكَذِبُ. 2 things that will corrupt your fast are backbiting and lying. And the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّمَا الصَّوْمُ جُنَّةٌ فَإِذَا كَانَ أَحَدُكُمْ صَائِمًا فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَجْهَلْ وَإِنِ امْرُؤٌ قَاتَلَهُ أَوْ شَاتَمَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. The Prophet ﷺ says, and this is everything I just said is captured in this one hadith by the Prophet ﷺ says, if one of you are fasting, then don't do rafath, don't become disorderly, and don't get involved in activities that are, blameworthy, even if it's in the context of getting close, in intimate ways with your spouse. Don't play around too much. وَلَا يَفْسُقْ وَلَا يَجْهَلْ. Don't be an ignoramus. وَإِنِ امْرُؤٌ قَاتَلَهُ. And if someone comes to fight you, أَوْ شَاتَمَهُ, or curses you, فَلْيَقُمْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. I am fasting, I am fasting. And the ulama say the first inni sa'im is for myself, and the second one is for the person. And then the third category is kaffu sam'a, what you listen to. We spoke about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, سَمَّعُونَ لِلْكَذِبِ أَكَّالُونَ لِلسُّحْتِ. These are those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this category of people who are going to be in Jahannam. They listen to the lies. They just sit there consuming filth. The fourth category is كَفُّ بَقِيَّةِ الْجَوَارِحِ عَنِ الْآثَامِ مِنَ الْيَدِّ وَالرِّجْلِ وَعَنِ الْمَكَارِحِ. So now, where is your hand? What is your hand doing? Where is my leg going? Do I need to go to that store? I would encourage you that you do not go shopping in Ramadan. Don't go into the mall. Just stay away from these places. They're unnecessary. You don't need to go perusing in the mall. Don't just go walking around in Target. Don't go to these places. Why? Don't go to, everyone loves to go to Costco. I still don't get it. But don't go. It's just pure nafs. Costco is like pure nafs. Okay? It's just like, that's what most people you don't love Costco, Shaykh? No, I don't love Costco. Shaykh, but you're missing out. The free samples, come on. I'm like, I didn't get on the free sample train yet. I know this is like a nightly activity for families. Like, Shaykh, if we're not going to do it, we go to Costco. I know what you're talking about. Like, this is, like our house lives in Costco, Don't go to Costco in Ramadan. There's no point. Like, do you have to? Anyone have to go to Costco? If you have to go buy the things you need. غض البصر on all the other free samples and the things that you don't need but you end up buying. غض البصر. I'm going to go get toilet paper and paper towels and eggs and fruits and get out. That's it. And maybe it's better to use online shopping in Ramadan. I don't know. I don't want to get too crazy with my recommendations. But please, I really do not go. You will feel yourself much better. Especially when you go to the store for the first time, when you're going like Eid shopping. Right? That's another thing. People last day of, people stop doing Ramadan after the night of 27th. Because Eid shopping, Sheikh, oh my God, I don't have time. I have to shop for Eid. And it's like every day, khalas, like as if Ramadan doesn't exist anymore. It's just now it's like 3 days of Eid shopping. You're still in Ramadan, you're still in the sacred window, and there's still an opportunity for Laylatul Qadr, and you're still all in that sacred reality. So limit that. If you need to do Eid shopping, I don't know, do it now or something. Don't be busy in Ramadan with Eid shopping, right? To the best of your ability, inshallah. We have 15 minutes left before us, so I just want to make sure there's no questions before we have to close. I'm going to keep on going if there are questions, but I want to make sure I honor if there's any questions. Any questions, whether they're fiqh related or habits or routines related, schedule related, yeah. Go ahead. So what are the appropriate ages to get children in fasting? Listen, I would say what we're seeing now is like children who are as early as 7, even 6, 7, 8, they get interested. They see the community doing it. They see their parents. I think it's a great opportunity when they're 6 and 7 to start introducing fasting to them. Give them a window of time when they're fasting, maybe a half a day, maybe a few hours. You know, don't let them push themselves in a way that they don't even understand that they can comprehend or handle. But definitely, I would say, encourage it, especially if they want it. Even if they don't want to, say, how about you fast the last hour? Because you'll find them in that 1 hour, they're fasting, they're acting as if they're fasting for 24 hours, like this guy. Oh my God, I'm starving. Brother, you just started fasting like 30 minutes ago. I know I'm so hungry. Well, let them do that. SubhanAllah, and I was reading not too long ago that, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He was saying that it's almost as if Allah makes the iftar like a gift. Because that's how we experience iftar, like a gift. But He was saying it's like a gift the way you would gift a child something when they accomplish something nice. So for the child, the gift of iftar should be really exciting, but not for a grown-up. You get what I'm saying? Like, the child, you entice them. You say, I'll give you a gift. If you fast half a day today, I'm going to buy you a toy. I'll give you whatever. Okay? And if you fast this many days, I'll give you. That's how you entice children. The problem is when we don't grow out of that. We just live in that world. I just want to be enticed. Oh, I'll get iftar. We're going to have, samosas or whatever. I'm so excited. Samosas, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I was equal opportunity offender today. Arabs, Daisies, I did the whole thing. If there's Nigerians here, I can talk about fufu, whatever you want. Like, I can go. Yes.
When you're talking about the 6 outward obligations, and the first one being looking for the moon, and you mentioned that, if you feel strongly, you can silently, and you don't want to follow your community, you can silently do your own thing, but when it comes to breaking the fast, you have to follow the community. Is breaking the fast in that context specific to that day, or can that be extrapolated to the end of Ramadan? Like you should conclude Ramadan with your community regardless of.
Yeah, concluding your Ramadan with your community.
So do Eid on, everyone should do Eid on the same day.
Yes, when the community breaks its fast, there shouldn't be anomalous realities playing out. So the ulama, for the most part, say you should conclude your Ramadan with the community, right? But like I said here, I mean, people can, depending on where they are, if they find themselves. But the standard I said for the majority of people in the community is fast and break your fast with your community. But if you have strong opinions and you're really beholden, you've studied a certain way and you really are committed to this, then that's the basic rule of thumb of how you manage that. Yeah. Acid reflux, like just something comes up, like just some acid. That's fine. Acid reflux is fine. That's like the involuntary vomiting that may happen from like the esophagus or something. But just something that you taste in the back of your throat, even if it comes into your mouth, that's all fine, inshallah. Yes. Can you sleep through iftar, or should you break your fast when maghrib comes in? You should break your fast when maghrib comes in. Inshallah. Yes, sisters. Right. We'll get the sister all the way in the back. And then, someone needs to help manage, but we'll get the sister all the way in the back. That's the hand I saw first, and then there was a sister up front, and then Lina, inshallah. Yeah. Like the value? I mean, hopefully it shouldn't be that different. I wasn't fasting 100 years ago. Present value, yeah. No, pay from the present value today, child. Yeah. No, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm not getting that. Did you guys hear that? Yes, yeah. So if they're of sound mind and sound body, and it's conceivable and reasonable, and they're not, struggling substantially, then yes. But once again, if they are not able to handle it, right, and it's really genuinely difficulty, then they would get the excuse of just not being able to fast because it's really too difficult for them. Fidya? Yeah. Then yeah, then they would be encouraged to make it up later on. Yeah, inshallah. Now there's some madhahib who say that madhahib who do add an age to it, like minimum, so 10 is like a cutoff point for some madhahib. Allahu a'lam. There was 2 questions up here front. Okay, Lena, go ahead. Ala, sorry, Lena, what am I saying? Ala. Yes. Mm-hmm. So the hadith is من صام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. The one who fasts Ramadan in a state of iman, in faith, and ihtisab, hopeful of Allah's reward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive his or her sins. You're asking, is there anything that takes me outside of that? Deprive me from having that? Yeah, listen, if someone is actively oppressing someone, right? Or someone is actively, usurping someone's rights, stealing from them or taking from them, then yeah, you're excluding yourself from that mercy, right? You're excluding yourself actively because you're not, it's the fast, yes, but it's also I cannot be dedicated and committed to this continuous type of oppression and wrongdoing, right? Sins are going to happen, yes, and maybe I'll, recur sin, but if right now I'm actively wronging someone, I'm taking someone's rights, and I'm usurping, then that will be a preventative from getting the mercy of Allah. Allahu a'lam. Yes. Because there's different calculations because of Salatul Maghrib, you're saying, is there a distinction between wara and rushing to? Yeah, so if there is like some, 1 to 2 minute discrepancies on calendars around breaking the fast, and this is something you're cognizant of, then it would be better to just wait the extra minute or two, wait until the adhan completes. You don't have to 59, boom, okay, waiting for a minute or two is very reasonable and conceivable, especially if there's discrepancies in the calendars and the way times were calculated. Allahu a'lam. Yes. No. Getting your blood drawn does not invalidate your fast. Inshallah. You follow, for breaking your fast, you follow that local time. Anyone else? Yes. Oh. MashaAllah. So the Atiq is informing me that the masjid is graciously providing food for everyone. So please do, after prayer, remain for the very generous, kind dinner. May Allah bless this masjid. MashaAllah, it's become a second home for prophetic living. We're here quite often for different programs. So may Allah bless ICCC. That's what I call it. Is there like a more common name that's used for this? ICCC? Okay, good. That's so may Allah bless, inshallah. Any last questions, inshallah? Yes. Go ahead, sir. Mhm. Yeah. Taib is a very good question. He's asking about balancing social obligations in Ramadan. There is certainly an exaggerated manifestation of this where Ramadan just becomes one continuous act of socializing, and it's almost as if the only way we can do it for Ramadan is if we're socializing. So there's an iftar all the time, and there's like outings all the time, and there's suhoor parties, and there's blah blah blah. That is excessive, and I would encourage you to stay away from that volume of Ramadan just being one big continuous party. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be, a social miscreant where you're like, I don't talk to me, Ramadan, I don't accept, I don't go. That's also excessive. Like this idea of I don't talk to anyone Ramadan. No, man fattara sa'iman, the one who, breaks the one who feeds the one who's fasting is inshallah someone who's blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and inshallah given profound reward. So moderately. So you're going to have an invitation at your home. Khalas, make the plan that this will not exceed an hour so that everyone can get to the masjid and pray Isha on time. I think it's moderate, it's acceptable, it's good, right? That you pray Maghrib together in the house, you break your fast, you have a nice iftar, and then Bismillah, we encourage, and all the families and the kids are inspired to get up and go to the masjid. That should be a beautiful activity, right? Okay, you're going to have a group suhoor. That's also fine. It's not inconceivable. But tie it into ibadah and worship. So for example, if there's a tahajjud program, then we're going to go to the tahajjud program, grab suhoor together, and come back for fajr. The worst thing that I see playing out is people will come to the masjid, have a great hangout, pray tahajjud. Okay, now we're going to have some mega suhoor, go to suhoor, and then go pray Fajr at home. That's a real problem. That's objectively a real problem. No. You don't, you've missed the mark completely. All right? It was, because that was all fun at that point. It's all fun and games. But now I'm missing Fajr in the masjid. No, so even if you're going to have a group suhoor, it's fine. I'm not saying don't do it. It's fine. I'm just saying do it moderately. Gather together, hour and a half of suhoor, whatever. That might sound, but let's say if you're going to go to a restaurant and these restaurants have suhoor and you're going to go spend an hour and a half having suhoor, get back to the masjid before Fajr, inshallah. So you pray Fajr in the masjid and then you go home. So, and then, definitely the last 10 nights is where you should try to so first 20, maybe you're 50 miles per hour. You notice I'm not saying 70 or 80, 40, 50. Then the last 10 nights maybe, go down to 10, 20 in terms of social stuff. Because you just want to create, the Prophet ﷺ, when the last 10 nights would come, what would he do? He would do the shadd of the mi'zar. He would tie his garment tight and he would awaken his family, right? Yalla, it's time for ibadah. It's like we're on the battlefield of worship, if you will. So that we can't miss this time. So may Allah help us, inshallah. And don't feel shamed if you're a family that does big mega parties in Ramadan. And people, mashallah, have these big beautiful parties. And I'm not intrinsically against it, but what I don't like is to see that the ibadah is lost under the guise of we're just having a big, massive, mega iftar, and we just lose ibadah, lose worship. No, there's that. You don't want to have that on your neck in your home. So if people are going to come to your home, you also dictate the terms. Listen, adhaful iman is that you have a group salah of Isha and a group tarawih in your home. And if people are coming to your home, then they're expected to pray together. So I know sometimes there's a culture of iftar to midnight, 1 a.m. I get it. I'm in the orbit of my community. If you're going to do that, then just have prayer in your home. Invite someone who can lead salah. And it doesn't have to be the same as like the shaykh in the masjid, but it could be like, a shorter version, inshallah. So I also, like, I don't like extremes. Don't think in extremes. Just try, okay, if this is something that it's a part of the culture of your home and whatever you do it, but try to do it more tastefully, more thoughtfully, appreciating the integrity of the time that we're in, inshallah. I hope that helps, bi'idhnillah. Barakallahu. Oh, is there a question? Okay, last question quickly, bi'idhnillah, before we get in trouble. Does that include what? Major sins? Yeah, major sins, yes. Kaba'ir, inshallah. Bi'idhnillah. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the remaining days of Sha'ban and deliver us to Ramadan. Barakallahu feekum, and may we be together in the best of states in this life and the afterlife. Inshallah, we do have some things happening in Ramadan for prophetic living. Mundir, what are they? Atiq, what are we doing? We have the what? We have an iftar banquet next Saturday. Mountain Lakes. So look for that, inshallah, in prophetic living. There's an iftar banquet. And what else? We have Sunday Quran reflections that will be on YouTube Live. Okay, what else? Sacred Manhood series on the 28th. Look out for that, inshallah, for the men. And last 10 nights, I'll be teaching a nightly class at 11 p.m. in ICCC Patterson. Inshallah, so you can find us there. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair.